Sir, my mom has a tattoo just like yours. Those 8 words shattered Ethan Carter's entire world in the parking lot of Oak Ridge Elementary. The compass tattoo on his wrist, a design he thought belonged to only 2 people on Earth, was apparently living on someone else's skin. Someone he hadn't seen in 5 years. Someone he'd lost forever. Or so he believed. What Ethan didn't know was that this innocent observation from a 7-year-old girl would unravel secrets, expose lies, and reveal a truth that would change 4 lives forever. Stay with me until the end of this story. Hit that like button and comment what city you're watching from. I want to see how far this journey travels. The October wind carried the scent of dying leaves and cheap hot dogs from the food cart across the street. Ethan Carter stood motionless in the pickup zone of Oak Ridge Elementary, his daughter Claire's small hand tucked safely in his, but his mind had gone completely blank. The little girl in front of him, pigtails bouncing, backpack covered in unicorn patches, stared up at him with the kind of innocent curiosity that only children possess. She couldn't have been more than 7, maybe 8. Brown curls framed her round face, and her eyes were the color of warm honey. "See?" she insisted, grabbing his hand without permission and pulling it closer to examine the tattoo on his wrist. "My mommy has the exact same one, with the star that looks like an M in the middle." Ethan's throat constricted. The compass tattoo on his inner wrist had always been personal, sacred even. Black ink forming a detailed nautical compass, with a small star at its center shaped deliberately like the letter M. He'd gotten it on a warm June night 5 years ago, sitting in a cramped tattoo parlor in Brooklyn with the woman he loved, both of them laughing and wincing and making promises about always finding their way back to each other. Maya Bennett. The name still hurt to think. "Olivia!" A sharp voice cut through his fog. "What did I tell you about talking to strangers?" Ethan's head snapped up, and the world tilted sideways. There, striding across the parking lot in navy blue scrubs and white sneakers, was a woman he'd convinced himself he'd never see again. Her dark hair was pulled back in a practical ponytail, a few loose strands catching the afternoon light. She moved with the same purposeful grace he remembered, though there was something different now, a weariness around her eyes, a guardedness in her shoulders. Dr. Maya Bennett, the woman who'd vanished from his life 5 years ago without explanation, the woman whose number had been disconnected, the woman who'd left him standing in their apartment surrounded by half-packed boxes and unanswered questions, the woman who apparently had a daughter. Their eyes met across 15 feet of asphalt, and Ethan watched her freeze mid-step. The color drained from her face. Her hand, reaching for the little girl, Olivia, stopped in midair like she'd forgotten how to move. "Ethan." His name on her lips was barely a whisper, but he heard it clearly over the chaos of car doors slamming and parents calling out goodbyes. "Mommy, look!" Olivia grabbed Maya's hand and pulled it toward Ethan. "This is Claire's dad, and he has the same tattoo as you. I told him!" Maya's sleeve had ridden up slightly, and there it was, the compass, identical to his own, etched on her inner wrist. The M-shaped star pointing north. For 5 seconds, neither of them spoke. The world continued around them, children laughing, cars honking, a teacher blowing a whistle somewhere. But they stood locked in a bubble of shared history and mutual shock. "Mom?" Olivia tugged on Maya's scrubs. "Are you okay?" Maya blinked, seemed to remember where she was, and her professional mask slid into place. "I'm fine, honey." Her voice was steadier than her hands. She looked at Ethan, then at Claire, then back at Ethan. We should probably move out of the pickup zone." Ethan nodded numbly. His mouth felt full of cotton. Claire squeezed his hand, sensing something was wrong, but not understanding what. "Daddy?" Claire's voice was small. "Can we go home?" "In a minute, sweetheart." He forced himself to smile down at her, to be the steady presence she needed. 5 years of single parenthood had taught him to compartmentalize, to save his personal crises for after bedtime. "Give me just 1 minute." They moved to the side near the chain-link fence that bordered the playground. Parents streamed past them, some waving at Maya or Ethan, some too absorbed in their own chaos to notice the drama unfolding. "I didn't know you were back in town," Maya said finally, her arms crossed over her chest. Defensive. Protected. "I moved here 6 months ago." Ethan's voice sounded foreign to his own ears. For work. And for Claire. Maya's eyes dropped to the 7-year-old girl holding his hand. Claire had inherited the Carter blonde hair and blue eyes, though her features were softer, more delicate. She looked nothing like Ethan. She's beautiful, Maya said, and there was genuine warmth in her voice beneath the tension. Then, more carefully, I didn't know you had a daughter. I didn't, not 5 years ago. The words came out harder than he intended. A lot has changed. The implication hung between them. You would know if you hadn't disappeared. Maya's jaw tightened. Ethan, Mommy, can Claire come over? Olivia interrupted, oblivious to the adult's silent war. We could play with my dolls. Both children looked up at their respective parents with identical expressions of hope. It would have been comical under different circumstances. Not today, Liv, Maya said gently, smoothing her daughter's hair. We have to get home. You have homework. But, Olivia, the doctor voice, firm but kind. Not today. Ethan watched the exchange with a strange sense of dislocation. Maya, as a mother, was something his brain couldn't quite process. The Maya he'd known had been focused on medical school, on building her career, on changing the world one patient at a time. Children had been a someday conversation, a future neither of them had been ready to plan. Now here she was, parenting a child who looked about 7 years old. The math made his stomach turn. We should go too, Ethan managed. It was unexpected, seeing you. Yes. Maya's eyes flickered with something, regret, fear, pain, before she looked away. Unexpected. They stood there for another beat, neither moving, both clearly wanting to say 1,000 things, but having no idea where to start. Mr. Carter, a voice called from the parking lot. You left your lights on. Ethan glanced back at his car, a practical silver SUV with Indiana plates he hadn't bothered to change yet. The headlights were indeed still on. He must have forgotten to turn them off in his rush to pick up Claire on time. I have to, he gestured vaguely. Of course. Maya took a step back, pulling Olivia with her. We should go anyway. Like Claire, Olivia waved enthusiastically. See you tomorrow, Claire waved back shyly, and then Maya was walking away, her stride quick and purposeful. Ethan watched her go, watched the way Olivia skipped beside her, chattering about something he couldn't hear. The compass tattoo on his wrist seemed to burn. Ethan's apartment was a modest 2-bedroom on the 3rd floor of a renovated factory building downtown. Exposed brick, large windows, hardwood floors that creaked in the quiet moments. He'd chosen it for the light and the proximity to Claire's school. The furniture was practical, IKEA mixed with a few antiques from his parents' house. Nothing matched, but it was home. Claire dropped her backpack by the door and immediately ran to the kitchen. Can I have apple slices? May I? Ethan corrected automatically, following her. And yes. He moved through the familiar ritual, washing the apple, cutting it into thin slices, arranging them on her favorite plate with the cartoon cats. His hands knew the motions, but his mind was still in that parking lot, still seeing Maya's face, still trying to make sense of the impossible. Claire climbed onto one of the kitchen stools and swung her legs as she munched her snack. Olivia's nice, she said around a mouthful of apple. She let me use her purple crayon today. That was kind of her. Ethan leaned against the counter, studying his niece. No, his daughter now. The adoption had been finalized 8 months ago, after 2 years of legal battles and social worker visits and endless paperwork. Claire had been calling him Daddy for 3 years. Ever since her parents, Ethan's brother Marcus and his wife Jennifer, had died in a car accident on a rainy Tuesday evening. Some days it still didn't feel real. Daddy? Claire's voice pulled him back. Why did that lady make you sad? Ethan's chest tightened. What makes you think I'm sad? Your face got all scrunchy, like when you look at pictures of Uncle Marcus. Kids, they saw everything. He sat down on the stool beside her, bringing himself to her eye level. That lady, Dr. Bennett, is someone I used to know, a long time ago, before you came to live with me. Were you friends? Yes, we were very good friends. But not anymore? Ethan chose his words carefully. We lost touch. Sometimes that happens with people, even when you don't want it to. Claire considered this, her small face serious. Is that why you both have the same tattoo? Because you were friends? Something like that. She nodded, satisfied with the explanation in the way only children can be. Olivia said her mom is a doctor. That's cool. She helps sick kids. She does. Maya had wanted to be a pediatrician since her own childhood, since her little brother had survived leukemia thanks to doctors who refused to give up. She'd talked about it on their third date, her eyes bright with passion and purpose. Ethan wondered if she'd achieved that dream, wondered what else had changed, wondered why she'd left without a word, wondered whose daughter Olivia really was. Number. He shut that thought down immediately. It was impossible. The timeline didn't work. Maya had left 5 years ago in March. Olivia appeared to be about 7, maybe 8. Unless... His phone buzzed in his pocket, shattering his spiral. Work. A client email about the Morrison project. He typed a quick response, then set the phone down. Can I watch cartoons? Claire asked, having finished her apples. 30 minutes, then homework. Okay. She bounced off the stool and headed to the living room, leaving Ethan alone with his thoughts and the echo of Maya's voice saying his name. Across town, in a small craftsman-style house with a yellow door and flower boxes that Maya never had time to maintain, Olivia Bennett was also eating apple slices. Mom, why were you acting weird? Olivia asked, legs kicking under the kitchen table. Maya's hands paused over the vegetables she was chopping for dinner. I wasn't acting weird. Yes, you were. You got all quiet and your face went white, like when Grandma told you about Uncle David's motorcycle. Maya set down the knife. Her daughter was too observant. Mr. Carter is someone I knew before you were born. I was just surprised to see him. Did you used to date him? The question hit like a physical blow. What makes you ask that? Olivia shrugged, grabbing another apple slice. You both have the same tattoo, and you looked at him the way Princess Aurora looks at Prince Philip in the movie. Maya's heart hammered against her ribs. Olivia, it's okay, Mom. I think it's romantic, like a fairy tale. Except it wasn't a fairy tale. It was a nightmare. Ethan Carter, in her town, at her daughter's school, looking older, tired, but still fundamentally him. Same jawline, same way of standing with his weight on his left foot, same eyes that had once looked at her like she was the only person in the world who mattered. And he had a daughter. The universe had a cruel sense of humor. Homework, Maya said, needing to end this conversation. Go get started. I'll call you when dinner's ready. Olivia slid off her chair, grabbing her backpack. Can Claire come over sometime? She seems nice, and she's really good at drawing. We'll see. That's adult for probably not, Olivia said wisely, and disappeared down the hall. Maya braced her hands on the counter and closed her eyes. This wasn't happening. This couldn't be happening. She'd built a life here. A good life. Small and safe and carefully controlled. Her practice at Riverside Pediatrics was thriving. Olivia was happy, well-adjusted, surrounded by friends and family. Maya's parents lived 20 minutes away. Her brother visited every month. Everything was stable, and then Ethan Carter had walked back into her world after 5 years of silence. No. She'd been the one to leave. She had to remember that. She'd been the one who'd packed her bags and driven away in the middle of the night, too scared and proud and hurt to leave a note. She'd been the one who'd changed her number, blocked his email, asked their mutual friends not to share her information. She'd been the one who'd discovered she was pregnant 6 weeks later. The compass tattoo on her wrist seemed to mock her. Find your way home, they'd promised each other that night in Brooklyn. No matter what happens, we'll always find our way back. What a lie that had been. Her phone rang. Her mother. Maya almost didn't answer, but Susan Bennett was persistent, and avoiding her only delayed the inevitable. Hi, Mom. You sound stressed. What's wrong? Maya walked to the window, looking out at her quiet street. Maple trees. Halloween decorations already appearing on neighbors' lawns. Normal. Safe. Nothing's wrong. Maya Elizabeth Bennett, I gave birth to you. I know your voices. What happened? Maybe it was the stress. Maybe it was the shock still coursing through her system. Maybe she just needed to say it out loud to make it real. Ethan's in town. He's living here. Silence on the other end. Then, Ethan, as in, yes. More silence. Susan Bennett was a retired high school principal, a woman who'd raised 3 children through various crises with calm competence. Very little rattled her, but this news clearly required processing. "Did you talk to him?" "Barely. We ran into each other at school pickup. Mom, he has a daughter, about Olivia's age." "Oh, yeah, oh. Does he know about—" "No." Maya's voice was sharp. "And he can't. Not yet. Maybe not ever. I don't know. Honey, you can't hide Olivia from him forever, especially if they're in the same school." "I'm not hiding her. I need time to think, to figure this out." "What's there to figure out? He's her father." "Is he?" The words burst out before Maya could stop them. "He left, Mom. He walked away from us, from our life together. I tried to find him. I called. I went to his apartment. He was gone." "Sweetheart, you never told me that part." Maya pressed her forehead against the cool glass. "I was too ashamed. I thought I'd done something wrong, driven him away. By the time I realized I was pregnant, I'd convinced myself he didn't want to be found. And now? Now he's here. And he looks at me like I'm the one who abandoned him, and I don't know what's true anymore." Susan sighed. "You need to talk to him. Really talk. Not whatever happened today." "I know. Soon, Maya. I know. But knowing and doing were very different things." Career Day at Oak Ridge Elementary was a tradition. Every year, parents came in to talk about their jobs, to inspire and educate, and sometimes bore the children with tales of spreadsheets and meetings. This year's event was scheduled for Friday, 3 days away. Ethan had signed up back in September before he knew Maya existed in this timeline of his life. Now, walking into the school's main office Wednesday morning to confirm his participation, he felt like he was walking into a minefield. "Mr. Carter," Mrs. Rodriguez, the front desk secretary, beamed at him. "So glad you're still coming on Friday. The kids are very excited about the architecture presentation." "Wouldn't miss it." He signed the volunteer form, noting the other names on the list. Thompson, pediatrician; Rodriguez, firefighter; Chen, software engineer; Bennett, pediatrician. Bennett. Of course. "Dr. Bennett is always wonderful," Mrs. Rodriguez chatted on, oblivious to Ethan's internal turmoil. "The children love when she brings her stethoscope and lets them listen to their heartbeats, and her daughter Olivia is such a sweetheart." "I'm sure." Ethan's hand tightened on the pen. "Are you feeling all right, Mr. Carter? You look a bit pale." "Fine. Just a long night. Claire had a nightmare." It wasn't entirely a lie. Claire had woken up at 2 in the morning crying about monsters. But the real reason for his exhaustion was lying awake until dawn, staring at the ceiling, thinking about Maya. He'd tried to find her 5 years ago. After their fight, a stupid, meaningless argument about whether to stay in New York or move for her residency in Boston, he'd given himself 2 weeks to cool off. Then he'd gone back to their apartment, flowers in hand, ready to apologize and compromise and figure it out together. The apartment had been empty, cleared out. The landlord said she'd paid the lease through the end of the month and left no forwarding address. Her phone was disconnected. Her email bounced back. Mutual friends claimed they didn't know where she'd gone. Ethan had searched for 6 months before finally accepting that Maya didn't want to be found. Now he understood she'd been here, in this small Indiana town, building a life, raising a daughter. "Mr. Carter?" Mrs. Rodriguez was staring at him with concern. "Sorry, distracted. What time on Friday?" 10 o'clock. You'll have about 20 minutes with each class. We've got you scheduled for Mrs. Patterson's class first. That's Claire and Olivia's room. Then Mrs. Kim's. Then Mr. Okafor's." Perfect. He'd be presenting in front of Maya, in front of their daughters. No, not their daughters. His daughter. Her daughter. 2 separate children from 2 separate lives. Except Olivia had asked about his tattoo, had said her mother had the same one. The M stood for Maya. His compass had always been about Maya. What did hers mean? Friday arrived with unseasonable warmth, the kind of October day that felt like summer's last gasp before winter's grip. Ethan dressed carefully, dark slacks, white button-down, navy blazer. Professional but approachable. He'd prepared a presentation on his laptop, complete with photos of buildings he'd designed and a kid-friendly explanation of how architecture worked. He'd also prepared himself to see Maya again, or so he thought. Walking into Mrs. Patterson's classroom at 9:55 a.m., seeing her already there nearly undid him. She stood near the window, wearing black slacks and a teal blouse that brought out the gold flecks in her brown eyes. Her hair was down today, falling in soft waves past her shoulders. She was talking to Mrs. Patterson, gesturing with her hands the way she always did when she was passionate about something. Then she turned and saw him. The smile froze on her face. Ethan forced himself to keep walking, to nod politely, to pretend his heart wasn't trying to break through his ribs. "Mr. Carter, Dr. Bennett, welcome." Mrs. Patterson, a energetic woman in her 50s, ushered them both to the front of the room. "Class, we have two wonderful guests today. I want everyone on their best behavior." 22 7-year-olds stared up at them. Claire sat in the second row, waving enthusiastically. Olivia sat beside her, and Ethan's breath caught when he saw them side by side. They looked alike. Not identical, but similar. Same nose, same smile, same way of tilting their heads when curious. His hands went cold. "Dr. Bennett, why don't you go first?" Mrs. Patterson suggested. Maya nodded, moving to the front with practiced ease. She was good with kids. He'd known that about her. She'd volunteered at children's hospitals during medical school, talked about her young patients with tenderness and respect. "Good morning," she said, her voice steady and warm. "Who here has been to see a doctor before?" Every hand shot up. "Great. Well, I'm a special kind of doctor called a pediatrician. That means I only take care of kids, from brand new babies." She held her hands close together. "To teenagers." She stretched her arms wide, and everyone in between. The kids giggled. Maya smiled, and for a moment Ethan saw the woman he'd fallen in love with. Bright, passionate, alive. She talked about stethoscopes and thermometers and vaccines. She let kids come up and listen to their heartbeats. She answered questions about whether shots hurt, a little pinch but very quick, and whether she'd ever seen anyone with a broken bone. "Many times." Olivia raised her hand. "My mom helped a baby who couldn't breathe once. She saved his life." Maya's expression softened. "I was just doing my job, sweetie." "But you were brave," Olivia insisted. "So are you. Every time you get a shot without crying." The class awed. Ethan found himself staring at this child, this little girl who shared Maya's eyes and smile, and trying not to think impossible thoughts. When it was his turn, he pulled up his presentation and talked about designing buildings. He showed pictures of a library he'd worked on in Chicago, a community center in Indianapolis, the elementary school expansion he was currently consulting on right here in town. He explained about blueprints and measurements and making sure buildings were safe and beautiful. "Architecture is like telling a story with spaces," he said. "Every room, every window, every door is a choice about how people will use and feel in that building." A boy in the back raised his hand. "Have you ever built anything famous?" "Not yet, but maybe someday." "What's the tallest building you've worked on?" 32 stories in New York City." Claire beamed with pride. Olivia leaned over and whispered something to her, and both girls giggled. Throughout his presentation, Ethan was acutely aware of Maya watching him. He could feel her eyes tracking his movements, could sense the questions she wanted to ask, but couldn't in front of the children. When both presentations ended, Mrs. Patterson led the class in applause. "Thank you both so much. Now, who wants to have free playtime while our guests fill out some paperwork?" The children scattered to various activity stations. Ethan and Maya stood awkwardly near the teacher's desk, forms in hand, neither quite looking at each other. "You're good with them," Maya said finally. "The kids." "So are you." He signed his name on the volunteer form. "Though I guess that's part of your job. Being a parent is harder than being a doctor." The words hung between them. Ethan set down his pen. "Maya." "Not here," she said quickly, glancing at the classroom full of children. "We can't do this here." "Then where? When?" She hesitated, and he saw the conflict in her eyes, the desire to run warring with the knowledge that running wouldn't solve anything. "Tonight," she said finally, "after the girls are asleep, there's a coffee shop on Maple Street. The Grind. Do you know it?" "I'll find it. 9 o'clock. I'll be there." She nodded, then gathered her things and left without another word. Ethan watched her go, his mind racing with questions and fears and a strange, desperate hope he didn't dare name. Across the room, Claire and Olivia were building something with blocks, their heads bent together in concentration, completely unaware that their parents' worlds were about to collide in ways that would change everything. The Grind was the kind of coffee shop that existed in every small town. Exposed brick, mismatched furniture, local art on the walls, the smell of espresso and cinnamon. At 9 o'clock on a Friday night, it was nearly empty. A college student with headphones worked on a laptop in the corner. A couple shared a dessert by the window. Behind the counter, a barista with purple hair wiped down the espresso machine. Ethan arrived 5 minutes early, ordered a black coffee he didn't want, and chose a table in the back where they could talk without being overheard. Maya walked in at exactly 9 o'clock. She'd changed into jeans and a gray sweater, her hair pulled back in a ponytail. She looked young and tired and beautiful, and Ethan had to remind himself to breathe. She ordered tea, then joined him at the table, wrapping her hands around the ceramic mug like she needed the warmth. For a long moment, neither spoke. Then Maya said, "I'm sorry." Whatever Ethan had expected, it wasn't that. For what? For leaving the way I did. For not explaining. For... She gestured helplessly. Everything. He wanted to tell her it didn't matter, that the past was past. But that would be a lie. I came back, 2 weeks after our fight. I was ready to apologize, to make it work. You were gone. I know. You know? His voice rose slightly. You knew I came back? Not then. Later. A few months later, I ran into Sophie at a conference. She told me. Sophie Chen, their mutual friend from medical school. She said you'd been looking for me. For 6 months, Maya. I looked for 6 months. I'm sorry, she whispered again. Why did you leave? She stared into her tea. Because I was scared. Because we fought, and you said maybe we wanted different things, and I panicked. I thought you were looking for an out, so I gave you one. I packed up and left, and by the time I realized I'd made a mistake, I'd convinced myself it was too late. It wasn't. Wasn't it? She looked up, her eyes bright with unshed tears. Ethan, we were falling apart. The fighting, the different goals, the stress. Maybe we would have made it, but probably we wouldn't have. And when I found out I was pregnant, the world stopped. Pregnant, Ethan repeated flatly. 6 weeks after I left. Maya's hands trembled around her mug. I took a test in a gas station bathroom in Ohio. I was on my way to my parents' house trying to figure out what to do with my life, and suddenly I had a whole new reason to panic. Ethan's mind worked frantically, counting backward. 5 years ago. Maya left in March. Olivia was... She's mine, he said. Not a question. A fact. Yes. The word punched through him. Relief and rage and joy and grief all at once. Why didn't you tell me? I tried. Maya's voice cracked. I called your phone, disconnected. I went to the apartment. You'd moved out. I asked Sophie, James, everyone we knew. No one would tell me where you were. They said you'd ask them not to. Because I was trying to get over you, Ethan said harshly. Because every mutual friend was a reminder of what I'd lost. I changed my number, moved to Chicago, took a job that would keep me busy enough to forget. And you? I was in Indiana, pregnant and alone, trying to finish my residency while growing a human. She laughed bitterly. I told myself you'd made your choice, that you didn't want to be found, that raising her alone was better than forcing you into fatherhood. You had no right to make that decision for me. I know. Tears spilled over now, tracking down her cheeks. I know, and I'm sorry. I was 26 and terrified and making terrible choices. I convinced myself I was protecting you from an obligation you didn't want. Ethan stood abruptly, his chair scraping against the floor. He paced to the window, hands clenched, trying to process the enormity of what she'd just told him. He had a daughter, a biological daughter, Olivia, 7 years old. 7 years he'd missed. What's her birthday? His voice was rough. December 8th. 9 months from their breakup, the timeline fit perfectly. Does she know about me? No. I told her. I told her that her father and I weren't together anymore, that he lived far away, that sometimes people love each other but can't make it work. Maya wiped her eyes. I never said you didn't want her. I never said anything bad about you. I let her believe you weren't part of her life by choice. Jesus, Maya. I know. He turned back to her. Claire isn't mine. Biologically, she's my niece. My brother and his wife died 3 years ago. Car accident. I was her guardian in their will. Understanding dawned in Maya's eyes. That's why you moved here. Fresh start. Better schools, slower pace. My consulting work is flexible enough that I can be present for her. He sat back down, suddenly exhausted. I'm all she has. I'm sorry about your brother. And I'm sorry you went through pregnancy and childbirth alone. They sat in silence, the weight of 5 years of miscommunication and missed chances pressing down on them. What do we do now? Maya asked finally. I don't know. Ethan rubbed his face. I have a 7-year-old daughter I've never met. Not really. Not as her father. She's wonderful, Maya said softly. Smart, funny, kind. She loves science and soccer and those stupid pop songs on the radio. She's terrible at piano but insists on taking lessons. She wants to be a veterinarian when she grows up. I want to know her. The words came out fierce, final, not as Claire's dad or some guy from Career Day, as her father. Okay? Okay? Yes. Maya met his eyes. You're right. You deserve to know. You deserve to be part of her life. We'll figure out how to tell her, how to make this work. Just like that? What choice do we have? Keep lying? Keep hiding? I've spent 5 years living with the guilt of keeping her from you. I won't do it anymore. Ethan wanted to believe her, but trust wasn't that simple. And if I want joint custody? If I want her to know me as her father, not just some guy you used to know, then we'll work it out. Legally, properly, whatever it takes. She straightened her shoulders. I'm not going to fight you, Ethan. This is my fault. I own that. We'll do what's best for Olivia. And what about us? The question escaped before he could stop it. Maya's expression shifted. Surprise, then something that might have been longing. Us? 5 years ago, I loved you. I wanted to marry you, build a life with you. Then you left, and I convinced myself it was for the best. He leaned forward. But seeing you again, I don't know what I feel. Anger, definitely. Hurt. But also, Maya finished quietly. Yeah. They stared at each other across the scarred wooden table, and for a moment, Ethan could almost see them as they'd been, young and reckless and so certain they'd found forever. I think, Maya said carefully, that we need to focus on Olivia first, and Claire. They're what matters. Agreed. But maybe, she hesitated, maybe once we figure out the parent stuff, we can figure out the rest. It wasn't a promise, it wasn't even really hope, but it was something. I'd like that, Ethan said. Maya smiled, small, tentative, real. Me too. They talked for another hour, working out logistics. How to tell Olivia, when to tell her, what to say to Claire. Maya suggested family counseling, a neutral third party to help navigate the complexity. Ethan agreed immediately. They decided to wait a few weeks before saying anything, to let the girls get to know each other naturally, as classmates and maybe friends, to give themselves time to process and plan. It wasn't perfect, but it was a start. When they finally stood to leave, the coffee shop about to close, Ethan walked Maya to her car. Thank you, he said, for telling me, for being honest. I should have been honest 5 years ago. We both made mistakes. Yeah. She unlocked her car, then paused. Ethan? About the tattoos. He looked down at his wrist, at the compass that had marked him for half a decade. I never regretted mine, Maya said. Even when I hated you, even when I tried to convince myself to get it removed, I couldn't, because it was always true. What was? That you were my true north, my home. She touched her own wrist, tracing the ink. I just forgot how to find my way back. Before he could respond, she got in her car and drove away, leaving Ethan standing alone in the parking lot, his heart full of things he didn't have words for. Above him, stars appeared in the October sky, constellations ancient and unchanging, mapping paths for anyone brave enough to follow them home. The weekend passed in a blur of soccer games and grocery shopping and careful avoidance. Ethan took Claire to the park on Saturday, pushing her on the swings while his mind replayed every word of his conversation with Maya. On Sunday, he made pancakes and helped with homework, and tried not to think about the fact that somewhere across town, Maya was doing the same things with a daughter who was their daughter. The words still felt foreign in his mind, like trying on a coat that didn't quite fit yet. Monday morning arrived with rain, the kind of steady downpour that turned the streets into rivers and made school drop off a chaotic dance of umbrellas and raincoats. Ethan pulled up to the curb outside Oak Ridge Elementary, watching Claire unbuckle herself with the practiced efficiency of a child who'd learned independence early. "Love you, sweetheart," he said, reaching over to zip her jacket. "Love you too, Daddy." She kissed his cheek, grabbed her backpack, and dashed toward the building. Ethan was about to pull away when he saw Maya's car, a practical gray Honda, pull into the spot 2 spaces down. He watched through the rain-streaked windshield as she got out, opened Olivia's door, helped her with her backpack. The same small rituals he'd just performed with Claire. Their eyes met across the parking lot. Maya lifted her hand in a small wave. Ethan returned it. Then both girls were running through the rain toward the school entrance, and the moment passed. But something had shifted. Some invisible boundary had been crossed Friday night, and now they existed in a strange limbo, not quite strangers, not quite together, bound by a truth that neither of them had fully processed yet. Ethan's phone buzzed as he drove to his office downtown. A text from Maya. "Can we talk this week? About next steps?" He pulled over, typed a response. "Thursday evening, after the girls are in bed?" "My house this time. I'll text you the address." "Okay." 3 texts, 30 words. A conversation that 5 years ago would have been a phone call filled with laughter and inside jokes. Now they communicated like business associates arranging a meeting. The distance between what they'd been and what they were now felt insurmountable. His office was in a converted warehouse that housed several small architecture firms and design studios. Ethan shared space with 2 other consultants, but most days he had the place to himself. Today was no exception. He made coffee in the tiny kitchen, settled at his drafting table, and tried to focus on the elementary school expansion project that was supposed to be his priority. Instead, he found himself sketching a house. Not the school, not the Morrison project. A house, 2 stories, wide front porch, large windows facing south for natural light, an addition off the back, maybe a studio or playroom, space for a family, space for children. He stopped, staring at what his hands had created without permission. This was dangerous. He was getting ahead of himself, building fantasies out of a single conversation and 5-year-old memories. Maya had made it clear they needed to focus on the children first. Everything else was secondary, but his treacherous heart didn't seem to care about priorities. The week crawled by. Tuesday brought parent-teacher conferences where Ethan learned that Claire was excelling in reading but struggling with math. Wednesday brought a late night at the office working on revised blueprints. Thursday brought anxiety that settled in his chest and refused to leave. At 6 o'clock, he picked up Claire from after-school care. At 7, they ate chicken nuggets and broccoli at the kitchen table. At 8, he supervised bath time and read 3 chapters of Charlotte's Web. At 8:30, Claire was asleep. Her blonde hair spread across the pillow. One arm wrapped around the stuffed elephant she'd had since she was 3. Ethan stood in her doorway for a long moment, watching her breathe. This child had saved him. When Marcus and Jennifer died, when the grief threatened to swallow him whole, Claire had given him a reason to keep going. She'd needed him, so he'd learned to be what she needed. Now he had another daughter who'd grown up without him, another child who needed things he hadn't been there to give. The guilt was overwhelming. He changed into clean jeans and a sweater, grabbed his keys, and typed Maya's address into his phone. 15 minutes across town, to a neighborhood of modest homes with well-kept lawns and Halloween decorations already appearing on porches. Maya's house was easy to spot. Yellow door, flower boxes with dead plants she probably meant to replace, a wooden swing hanging from the oak tree in the front yard. Warm light glowed through the curtains. A child's bike lay abandoned on the walkway. Ethan parked on the street and sat for a moment, gathering courage. Then he walked to the front door and knocked. Maya answered almost immediately, like she'd been waiting. She wore leggings and an oversized sweatshirt, her hair in a messy bun, no makeup. She looked more like the girl he'd known in New York than the polished professional he'd seen at career day. "Hi," she said. "Awesome." Come in. The house smelled like vanilla and old wood. The living room was cozy, overstuffed sofa, bookshelves crammed with medical texts and children's books, framed photos on the mantel. Ethan's eyes went immediately to the pictures. Olivia as a baby. Olivia's first birthday, face covered in cake. Olivia missing her front teeth, holding a soccer trophy. Olivia and Maya, cheek to cheek, laughing at something off camera. 7 years of moments he'd missed. Tea, coffee? Maya asked, already moving toward the kitchen. Coffee, if it's not too much trouble. It's never trouble. He followed her into a small kitchen painted pale blue. Children's artwork covered the refrigerator, crayon drawings of stick figures and animals, a watercolor that might have been a sunset or a forest fire. It was hard to tell. Maya moved with practiced efficiency, starting the coffee maker, pulling out mugs. She's asleep? Ethan asked. Out cold. She had soccer practice after school. Always sleeps hard on Thursdays. Claire has gymnastics on Thursdays. Same thing. They stood on opposite sides of the kitchen island, the coffee maker hissing and bubbling between them. Outside, rain started again, tapping against the windows. Maya pulled out a folder from the counter. I made notes about how to tell her. I talked to a family therapist, Dr. Sarah Chen. She's wonderful with children in complex family situations. She had some suggestions. Okay. She said honesty is crucial, but so is age-appropriate explanation. Olivia's 7. She understands relationships breaking up, but she doesn't need all the complicated details about our past. Ethan took the mug Maya offered him. What would we tell her? The truth, simplified. That we were together before she was born, that we lost contact. That seeing each other again was a surprise, but a good one, because it means she gets to know her biological father. And what about Claire? Maya sat down on one of the kitchen stools. That's trickier. She thinks you're her father. I am her father. Biology doesn't change that. I know, I'm not suggesting otherwise. Maya wrapped her hands around her own mug. But we need to tell her the truth too. That you're her dad through adoption, that her biological parents died and now she's gaining an extended family. She already knows all that, except the extended family part. Then we frame this as something positive. She's getting a half-sister, a bigger family. Ethan tried to imagine that conversation, tried to picture Claire's face when she learned her world was expanding in ways she couldn't have anticipated. When? He asked. Dr. Chen suggested we do it together. Both girls, both parents. This weekend, maybe. Somewhere neutral. Not school, not either of our houses. The park? Or that ice cream place on 3rd Street? Ice cream might soften the blow. Maya almost smiled. My thought exactly. They discussed logistics. Saturday afternoon, 2 o'clock, Sweet Dreams Ice Cream Parlor. They'd take the girls separately, tell them together, answer questions as honestly as possible. What if she hates me? Ethan said suddenly. Olivia, what if she resents that I wasn't there? She won't hate you. She's 7. 7-year-olds don't hold grudges like that. But eventually she'll get older. She'll understand that I missed her entire childhood. She'll want to know why I wasn't there, why I didn't fight harder to find you. Maya set down her coffee. Then we tell her the truth, that we were young and stupid and made terrible decisions, that we both tried and both failed, that sometimes life is messy and people make mistakes, but that doesn't mean they don't love each other. The last part hung in the air between them. Do we? Ethan asked quietly. Love each other? Maya looked away. I don't know what we are anymore. 5 years is a long time. We're different people. But you still wear the tattoo. So do you. Because it meant something, still means something. Ethan. She stood, paced to the window. We can't do this right now. We have to focus on the girls, on being good co-parents, on building something stable for them. And then what? Then we see. Maybe we become friends. Maybe we become something more. Maybe we stay parallel lines who share children and nothing else. She turned back to him. I don't have those answers yet. Ethan wanted to argue, wanted to push, but she was right. The children had to come first. Okay, he said. Friends, co-parents. We can start there. The tension in Maya's shoulders eased slightly. Thank you. They talked for another hour, working through schedules and logistics. Maya showed him Olivia's medical records, her school reports, photos from birthdays and holidays. She told stories. Olivia's first word was ball. She'd been walking by 10 months. She was allergic to strawberries, but loved blueberries. She slept with a stuffed penguin named Mr. Waddles. Ethan listened, memorizing details, trying to know 7 years in one sitting. When he finally stood to leave, close to midnight, Maya walked him to the door. "Ethan," she said as he stepped onto the porch, "I really am sorry. For all of it. I know. If I could go back, we can't. So we go forward." She nodded, hugging herself against the cold night air. "Saturday at 2. I'll be there." He drove home through empty streets, the rain finally stopping, stars appearing between the clouds. In his apartment, he checked on Claire, still sleeping peacefully, then sat on his bed and pulled out his phone. There was a folder in his photos labeled NYC. He hadn't opened it in years. Now he scrolled through images he'd almost forgotten. Maya laughing on the subway. Maya asleep on their couch, book on her chest. Maya dancing in their tiny kitchen, wooden spoon as a microphone. Both of them at Coney Island, at Central Park, at a rooftop party where they'd kissed under string lights and promised forever. Young, hopeful, completely unprepared for how hard forever actually was. The last photo in the folder was from the tattoo parlor, both of them holding up their wrists, fresh ink still red and swollen, grinning like idiots. Ethan touched the screen, tracing Maya's face. Saturday couldn't come fast enough, and yet he dreaded it with every fiber of his being. The next 2 days moved in slow motion. Friday, Ethan was distracted at work, sketching the same window 3 times before his colleague Jeff asked if he was feeling okay. Friday night, Claire wanted to watch a movie, so they curled up on the couch with popcorn and streamed an animated film about dragons that Ethan couldn't have summarized if his life depended on it. Saturday morning, he woke early, made pancakes shaped like dinosaurs, and tried to act normal. "Can I go to Emily's house today?" Claire asked over breakfast, syrup dripping down her chin. "Not today, sweetie. I thought we could do something special this afternoon." "Like what?" "Ice cream." Claire's eyes lit up. "Really? But you always say ice cream is a sometimes food." "Sometimes it's today." She cheered, then paused. "Can I get chocolate chip cookie dough?" "You can get whatever you want." Something in his voice must have been off because Claire tilted her head, studying him. "Daddy, are you sad?" "No, honey, just thinking." "About what?" "How did you explain to a 7-year-old that her world was about to change? That family wasn't always what you thought it was? That love could be complicated and messy and still somehow beautiful?" "About how lucky I am to have you," Ethan said, which was true even if it wasn't the whole truth. Claire grinned, showing the gap where she'd lost a tooth last week. "I'm lucky too." At 1:30, Ethan loaded Claire into the car. At 1:45, they pulled into the parking lot of Sweet Dreams Ice Cream Parlor, a retro-style shop with pink booths and a checkered floor and approximately 8,000 flavors. Maya's Honda was already there. Ethan's hands tightened on the steering wheel. This was it. No more delays, no more planning. Just truth and consequence and hope that they were making the right choice. "Why is Olivia here?" Claire asked, spotting the other girl through the window. "I thought it would be fun if we all got ice cream together." "Oh, cool!" Claire unbuckled herself and hopped out, completely oblivious to the significance of the moment. Inside, Maya and Olivia sat in a corner booth. Maya wore jeans and a green sweater, her hair pulled back. She looked as nervous as Ethan felt. Olivia, on the other hand, was coloring on a paper placemat, completely content. "Claire, Mr. Carter!" Olivia waved enthusiastically. The girls immediately started chattering about school and Halloween costumes and whether chocolate or vanilla was superior. Ethan and Maya exchanged a look over their heads. "Ready?" Maya mouthed. Ethan nodded. They ordered ice cream first, chocolate chip cookie dough for Claire, mint chocolate chip for Olivia, vanilla for Maya, coffee for Ethan. The girls ate with single-minded focus while the adults pushed their ice cream around their bowls. When both girls were mostly finished, Maya cleared her throat. "Girls, Mr. Carter and I wanted to talk to you about something important." Olivia looked up, green ice cream on her nose. Claire's spoon paused halfway to her mouth. "You're not in trouble," Ethan added quickly. This is good news. We hope. The girls glanced at each other, confused but curious. Maya took a breath. Olivia, do you remember how I told you that your daddy and I weren't together anymore? That he lived far away? Olivia nodded slowly. Well, something surprising happened. It turns out your daddy doesn't live far away. He lives here, in our town. Confusion crossed Olivia's face. Then she looked at Ethan, then at Maya, then back at Ethan. Mr. Carter is my daddy? Yes, sweetheart. Silence. Olivia's eyes went wide. Claire dropped her spoon. But he's Claire's daddy, Olivia said, her voice small. I'm Claire's daddy too, Ethan said gently. I adopted her after her birth parents died. So I'm Claire's dad, and I'm also your biological father. Which means you and Claire are half-sisters. Both girls stared at them like they'd announced the sky was falling. Sisters? Claire whispered. Half-sisters, Maya clarified. You have the same father but different mothers. Olivia's lower lip trembled. Why didn't you tell me before? Because I didn't know where he was, Maya said, her voice thick with emotion. Your dad and I lost touch before you were born. I tried to find him, but I couldn't. And then when we met again a couple weeks ago, we were both very surprised. You didn't know about me? Olivia asked Ethan, tears spilling over. Ethan moved from his side of the booth to sit next to her. No, sweetheart, I didn't. But if I had known, I would have been there, I promise. I would have been there for everything. My birthday? And when I fell off my bike? And my first day of school? Each word was a knife to his heart. All of it, every single moment. Olivia buried her face in her hands and cried. Maya reached across to rub her back while Ethan felt completely helpless, watching this child, his child, process a truth that should have been simple, but was anything but. Claire, meanwhile, had gone very quiet. Are you still my daddy? She asked, her voice barely audible. Ethan's attention snapped to her. Of course, always, forever. Nothing changes that. But now you have another daughter. Now I have 2 daughters. And I love you both. But you didn't know about Olivia, so you couldn't love her before, so maybe you love me more, Claire said with the brutal logic of childhood. Love doesn't work like that, Claire. It's not a limited resource. Having Olivia in my life doesn't mean I love you any less. It means my heart gets to grow bigger. Claire considered this, chewing her bottom lip. Then she looked at Olivia, who was still crying. Something softened in her expression. Hey, Claire said, reaching across the table to touch Olivia's arm. It's okay. Having a dad is pretty great. And sharing one might be even better because when he's annoying, we can complain together. Despite everything, Olivia laughed wetly. Is he annoying? Sometimes he makes really bad jokes. My mom does that too. Then they're perfect for each other, Claire said matter-of-factly. Ethan and Maya locked eyes, both startled by the unexpected wisdom. Does this mean we're a family now? Olivia asked, wiping her eyes. We're figuring out what that means, Maya said carefully. But yes, in a way, we are. Can I come to your house? Olivia asked Ethan. Anytime you want. Can Claire come to mine? Absolutely. The girls looked at each other again, and something passed between them. Recognition, maybe, or possibility. This is weird, Olivia announced. Super weird, Claire agreed. But kinda cool? Yeah, kinda cool. They went back to their ice cream, the resilience of children on full display. The adults sat in stunned silence, waiting for more questions, more tears, more resistance. But the girls were already moving forward, already adapting to this new reality with the ease that came from not knowing any different way to be. Can we go to the playground? Claire asked, scraping the last of her ice cream. Ethan looked at Maya. She shrugged. Why not? They walked to the park across the street, the girls running ahead, already holding hands. Ethan and Maya followed at a distance, watching them climb on the jungle gym, racing each other to the swings. That went better than I expected, Maya said. Kids are more adaptable than we give them credit for. Or we're just lucky. They sat on a bench while the girls played, close enough to supervise but far enough to give them space. The afternoon sun was warm, unusually kind for late October. Leaves drifted down from the oak trees, golden and red. What now? Ethan asked. Now we do the hard part. Custody arrangements, schedules. making sure both girls feel secure and loved. I want to be in her life, really in it, not just weekends. I know, we'll work it out. Maya watched Olivia hang upside down from the monkey bars. She's wanted a father her whole life. Used to ask me about you constantly when she was little. I'd make up stories, that you were traveling, that you thought about her all the time, that you'd meet her someday when the timing was right. Turns out you were telling the truth. Accidental honesty. They sat in comfortable silence for a while, watching their daughters play, watching them laugh together, share secrets, push each other on the swings. They look alike, Maya said softly. I didn't notice at first, but now I can't unsee it. Same nose, same smile, same way of tilting their head when they're thinking. Maya turned to look at him. Are you angry? Still? About everything? Ethan considered the question. Was he angry? Yes. Hurt? Definitely. But underneath all of that was something else. Relief, maybe. Or gratitude. I'm angry about the time I lost, he said finally. But I'm not angry at you, not anymore. We both made choices. We both have to live with them. That's very mature of you. I've had a lot of practice at letting go of things I can't control. Maya's eyes filled with tears. I wish I'd tried harder to find you. I wish I'd been braver. I wish I'd come back sooner. I wish I'd fought for us instead of running. We're really good at wishes, aren't we? Terrible at execution, she laughed, wiping her eyes. Maybe we can do better this time. Maybe. The word hung between them, full of possibility and fear. Daddy! Mom! Watch this! Olivia called from the top of the slide. Both adults turned, both said, Be careful! At the exact same moment, then looked at each other in surprise. Jinx, Maya said, you owe me a Coke. I owe you a lot more than that. Ethan reached over and took her hand. Just for a moment, just to say what words couldn't. She squeezed back. On the playground, their daughters played in the golden October light. Two girls who didn't know yet how complicated family could be, who only knew that today they'd gained a sister, and that was pretty much the coolest thing ever. And for the first time in 5 years, Ethan let himself believe that maybe, just maybe, broken compasses could find true north again. The following week transformed into something Ethan had never anticipated. A careful choreography of shared custody that hadn't yet been made official, playground meetings that felt like auditions, and phone calls with Maya that stretched late into the night as they navigated uncharted territory. Wednesday afternoon found him sitting in Dr. Sarah Chen's office, a space designed to put families at ease with its soft lighting and comfortable furniture that didn't look like it belonged in a therapist's office. Maya sat beside him on the couch, close enough that he could smell her perfume, something different from what she'd worn in New York, more subtle, more grown up. So, Dr. Chen said, her kind eyes moving between them, tell me how the girls are adjusting. Maya spoke first. Better than expected. Olivia asks about Ethan constantly. When can she see him again? Can Claire sleep over? Does he like the drawing she made him? It's like she's trying to make up for 7 years and 7 days. And Claire? Dr. Chen asked Ethan. Quieter about it. She doesn't ask as many questions, but I catch her watching Olivia sometimes with this expression I can't quite read, like she's trying to figure out where she fits in all this. That's normal, Dr. Chen assured him. Claire's world has been disrupted. She went from being an only child to having a sibling seemingly overnight. Even if it's a positive change, change is still scary. I don't want her to feel replaced, Ethan said, the fear he'd been carrying finally given voice. Have you told her that? I've tried, but she's 7. I don't know if she really understands. Dr. Chen made a note on her pad. Children Claire's age are very literal. Show her through actions, not just words. Make sure you have one-on-one time with her. Traditions that are just yours and hers. Let her know that having Olivia in your life doesn't diminish what you have with her. Maya shifted beside him. What about me? How do I help Olivia understand that Ethan being in her life now doesn't mean I failed her before? Do you feel like you failed her? Every single day. Maya's voice cracked. I look at her and I see all the moments Ethan missed. First steps, first words, first day of school, and I know that's partly my fault. I could have tried harder to find him. I could have... Maya, Dr. Chen interrupted gently. We can't change the past. We can only move forward with integrity and honesty. Olivia needs to see that you're working together now, that you're both committed to her well-being. That's what matters. The session continued for another 40 minutes, covering everything from custody schedules to how to handle questions from extended family. When they finally left, stepping out into the November cold that had settled over the town while they'd been inside, Ethan felt simultaneously exhausted and lighter. "Coffee?" Maya asked, pulling her coat tighter. "Always." They walked to a cafe 2 blocks away, neither speaking, both processing. The afternoon crowd had thinned, leaving the space quiet except for the hiss of the espresso machine and soft jazz playing overhead. "My parents want to meet you," Maya said once they were seated with their drinks. Ethan's stomach dropped. "Your parents? They're coming for Thanksgiving. Mom's already planning the whole meal, which means she's stress cooking, which means she's nervous about meeting you." "Does she hate me?" "She did, for a while." Maya wrapped her hands around her mug. "When I showed up at their house pregnant and alone, she wanted to track you down and make you pay child support. Dad had to physically stop her from hiring a private investigator." Jesus. "But I told them it was my fault too, that we'd both made mistakes. And over the years, they've softened, especially now that they know the whole story." She met his eyes. "They want to meet you, and they want to see you with Olivia, see if you're genuine. And if they decide I'm not, then I'll remind them that you're Olivia's father and they don't get a vote. But it would be easier if they liked you." Ethan thought about his own parents, retired and living in Florida, who'd been shocked when he'd called to tell them about Olivia. His mother had cried. His father had asked 3 times if he was sure, but they'd been supportive, eager to meet their granddaughter, already planning a trip north. "Okay," he said, "Thanksgiving, I can do that." "You'll have to bring Claire, she's part of this too." "My parents were planning to fly in. They want to meet Olivia." Maya's eyes widened. "So we're talking about a full family gathering, 4 grandparents, 2 parents, 2 children, and enough emotional baggage to fill a cargo plane. When you put it that way, it sounds like a disaster. Or it could be nice." Maya smiled, small but real. "Olivia's never had a Thanksgiving with extended family from both sides. It could be good for her." "Where would we even do this?" "My house has a bigger dining room, and my mom will want to cook. She processes stress through food. My mom brings pies to everything. It's her thing. Then we'll have lots of pie." They sat in silence for a moment, the enormity of what they were planning settling over them. This wasn't just coffee between co-parents anymore. This was weaving their lives together in ways that couldn't easily be undone. "Are we moving too fast?" Ethan asked. "Probably. But what's the alternative? Keep the girls separated? Pretend we don't have a complicated history? Eventually, everyone's going to meet everyone. Might as well rip the Band-Aid off." "That's a terrible metaphor for Thanksgiving dinner." Maya laughed, and the sound did something to Ethan's chest. "Fair point. How about this? Might as well jump into the deep end and hope we all know how to swim." "Still terrible." "I'm a doctor, not a poet." Their eyes met, and for a moment Ethan saw the girl he'd fallen in love with in New York, the one who made bad jokes when she was nervous, who laughed at her own terrible metaphors, who'd once spent an entire Sunday building a blanket fort in their apartment just because. "I miss this," he said before he could stop himself. Maya's smile faded into something more complicated. "Miss what?" "Talking to you, being with you. Not the heavy stuff about custody and therapy, just this." "Ethan, I know we said we'd focus on the girls, and we should. We are. But I'd be lying if I said I didn't wonder about the what-ifs." Maya looked down at her coffee. "I wonder too, all the time. I see you with Olivia and I think about what we could have been. The family we could have built if I hadn't run, if you hadn't left, if we just talked to each other like adults instead of scared kids playing at being grown up. We were 26. We were basically still kids. We were old enough to know better. Maybe. Or maybe we were exactly the age where you make the worst possible decisions while thinking you're being so mature and logical." Maya looked up, her eyes bright with unshed tears. "I loved you so much. It terrified me. And when we fought, when you said maybe we wanted different things, it felt like confirmation of every fear I'd ever had, that I wasn't enough, that you'd leave eventually anyway. So I left first." "You were always enough, Maya. More than enough." I was an idiot who said something hurtful in the middle of a stupid fight about geography. I didn't mean it. I would have followed you to Boston, to Mars, to anywhere, but you were gone before I could say that. And you didn't try to find me. I did, for months. Then I gave up because I thought you didn't want to be found. He leaned forward. But we can't keep doing this. We can't keep relitigating the past. It happened. We both screwed up. We both lost years we can't get back, but we're here now. So what are we going to do about it? Maya wiped her eyes. I don't know. Be friends? Co-parent well? Try not to mess up our daughters the way we messed up our relationship? That's the bare minimum. What do you want, Ethan? The question hung between them, heavy with possibility. Honestly, I want another chance, not to go back to who we were, but to see if we could be something new, something better. Two people who've lived and lost and grown up enough to maybe do it right this time. He reached across the table, his hand stopping just short of hers. But only if you want that too. Only if it's not just me being nostalgic for something that was never as good as I remember. Maya stared at his hand. Then, slowly, she closed the distance, her fingers intertwining with his. It was that good, she whispered. That's what made losing it so devastating. So we could try? We should go slow, really slow, for the girls, for us. Slow I can do. And we should keep seeing Dr. Chen, not just for co-parenting, for us, to work through everything. Okay. And if it doesn't work, if we realize we're better as friends, we have to be okay with that. I will be, as long as we actually try. Maya squeezed his hand. Then let's try. And the cafe around them continued its normal rhythm. The barista calling out orders, students hunched over laptops, the soft clink of spoons against ceramic. But in their corner booth, something fundamental had shifted. They weren't just co-parents navigating shared custody. They were two people who'd loved each other once, who'd hurt each other badly, who were choosing to be brave enough to see if love could survive the wreckage. Outside, the first snow of the season began to fall. The weekend brought a sleepover. Olivia at Ethan's apartment for the first time. Maya dropped her off Saturday morning with an overnight bag covered in unicorn stickers and a nervous energy that made Ethan wonder who was more anxious, mother or daughter. You have my number, Maya said for the third time, standing in the doorway. Call if anything goes wrong. If she gets homesick, if she needs anything, Maya, we'll be fine. I've never left her overnight with anyone except my parents. I'm her father. I know, it's just... She bit her lip, looking at Olivia, who was already exploring the living room with Claire. This is harder than I thought it would be. Ethan understood. This wasn't just about trusting him. This was Maya's first real acknowledgement that Olivia had another parent, another home, another piece of her life that didn't include her mother. We'll call before bed, he promised. And I'll send pictures, lots of pictures. Okay. Maya crouched down. Liv, come here, sweetheart. Olivia bounded over, her energy infectious. Yeah, Mom? You're going to have so much fun. But remember your manners, okay? And if you need anything, I know, call you. But Mom, I'll be fine. Claire's here, and Mr. She paused, looking at Ethan uncertainly. What should I call you? The question caught him off guard. They'd been so focused on the big picture that they'd missed this crucial detail. What do you want to call me? He asked gently. Olivia considered this with the seriousness it deserved. Claire calls you Daddy, but you're not really my daddy yet. I mean, you are, but it feels weird to just start calling you that. What about Dad? Claire suggested. That's different from Daddy. Or you could call me Ethan until you're comfortable with something else, he offered. There's no rush. Olivia nodded slowly. Ethan for now. Maybe Dad later? That works perfectly. Maya's eyes were shining again, but she blinked the tears back. Okay, I'll see you tomorrow, baby. Be good. I'm always good, Olivia said with the confidence of a child who mostly believed it. After Maya left, the apartment felt different, fuller, louder, more alive. The girls raced from room to room, Olivia exclaiming over everything. Claire showed her the view from the living room window, the spot in her room where she kept her stuffed animals, the kitchen where Ethan sometimes let her help cook. Can we make cookies? Olivia asked, eyes wide with hope. Ethan checked the pantry. We have everything except chocolate chips. We could go to the store, Claire suggested, or we could make sugar cookies and decorate them. Even better. They spent the afternoon in the kitchen, the girls standing on stools to reach the counter, flour dusting every surface, and the radio playing pop songs that they sang along to badly. Ethan mixed the dough while the girls argued about whether snowflake shapes were better than stars. When the cookies came out of the oven, they cooled them on racks and mixed up frosting in 3 different colors. "This one's for you, Ethan," Olivia said seriously, decorating a star-shaped cookie with blue frosting. "Because Mom said you're important." "She said that?" "Yeah, she said you're important, and we should be nice to you because you're family now." Claire looked up from her own cookie, decorated with so much frosting it was more icing than cookie. "Are we really family? Like, officially?" "What do you think family means?" Ethan asked. Claire considered this. People who love each other and take care of each other and have to share the remote control. "Then yes, officially, we're family." Olivia grinned. "Does that mean Ethan has to share the remote?" "Absolutely." They ate dinner, pizza that Ethan ordered because cooking seemed too ambitious after the cookie adventure, and then settled in to watch a movie. The girls picked an animated film about princesses and magic, curling up on either side of Ethan on the couch. Halfway through, Olivia's head drooped onto his shoulder. By the end, both girls were asleep. Ethan sat very still, afraid to move and wake them. Claire he was used to. She fell asleep on him regularly, a warm weight he'd come to treasure. But Olivia was new. Her hair tickled his chin and her breathing was slightly raspy, and she smelled like sugar cookies and strawberry shampoo. His daughter. The reality of it hit him fresh, the way it had been hitting him repeatedly over the past 2 weeks. This child sleeping on his shoulder was his. Half his DNA, half his responsibility, half his heart walking around outside his body in a 7-year-old package. He'd missed so much. First smiles, first teeth, first steps. The first time she'd said mama. The first time she'd fallen and needed comfort. First day of kindergarten, first lost tooth, first nightmare. But he was here now, and that had to count for something. Carefully, he scooped Olivia into his arms. She stirred but didn't wake, settling against his chest with the trust that only children possessed. He carried her to Claire's room, where they'd set up an air mattress on the floor. Tucked her in, pulled the blankets up to her chin, smoothed her hair back from her forehead. Then he went back for Claire, carrying her to her own bed, going through the same ritual he'd performed 1,000 times. 2 daughters, 2 beds, 2 chances to get it right. He called Maya from the kitchen, keeping his voice low. She answered on the first ring. "Everything okay?" "Everything's perfect. They're both asleep. We made cookies, watched a movie, and Olivia called me important." Maya's laugh was soft. "She told me she was going to make you her best cookie. Did she?" "She did. It's in the refrigerator. I'm saving it." "You're supposed to eat it, Ethan." "I know, but it's the first cookie my daughter ever made me. I'm preserving it." Silence on the other end, then, "That's very sweet. And slightly weird. I contain multitudes." "How is she really? Not homesick?" "Happy as a clam. She and Claire get along like they've been sisters their whole lives." "They kind of have been. We just didn't know it." Ethan leaned against the counter, phone pressed to his ear, talking to Maya the way they used to talk when he'd travel for work. About nothing and everything, just wanting to hear each other's voices. "I keep thinking about all the moments I missed," he admitted. "And I know you said we can't change the past, but it hurts. Knowing she was out there and I didn't even know to look for her." "I know, I'm sorry. I'll probably apologize for that for the rest of my life." "Don't." "I mean, I accept your apology, but you don't have to keep saying it. We've both apologized enough. At some point, we have to forgive each other and move forward." "When did you get so wise?" "Grief teaches things you don't want to learn. After Marcus died, I had a choice. Stay stuck in the anger and the what-ifs, or accept what I couldn't change and focus on what I could. I chose the latter, for Claire's sake. She's lucky to have you. I'm lucky to have her. And now I'm lucky to have Olivia too." He paused. "And maybe, if we don't screw this up, I might be lucky enough to have you again too. We're going slow, remember? This is slow. Slow is me not showing up at your door with flowers and a speech about second chances. You have a speech prepared? I might have thought about it. Save it, for when we're ready. How will we know when we're ready? Maya was quiet for a moment. I don't know. Maybe when it stops feeling scary, or when the fear becomes less important than the possibility. I can work with that. They talked for another hour about everything except the heavy things. Work, funny patient stories from Maya's practice, a building project Ethan was consulting on, what they wanted to do for the girls' upcoming birthdays. Easy conversation, the kind they'd had in New York when they were just two people falling in love without knowing how complicated love could become. When they finally hung up, Ethan checked on both girls one more time. Still sleeping, peaceful, and safe. He stood in the doorway of Claire's room, watching them both, and let himself imagine a future where this was normal. Where both his daughters lived under one roof, where Maya was there too, where the family they should have been 7 years ago finally came together. It was dangerous to hope like that. He knew better. But standing in the darkness, listening to his daughters breathe, he hoped anyway. Sunday morning arrived with pancakes and chaos, and Olivia's delighted discovery that Ethan owned every single movie in a particular animated franchise. Maya picked her up at noon, and the goodbye was harder than the drop-off had been. Can I come back next weekend? Olivia asked, hugging Ethan tight. Anytime you want, sweetheart. And can Claire come to my house? If it's okay with your mom. Maya nodded. Absolutely. Friday after school? Girls' night? Claire bounced excitedly. Can we, Daddy? Please? Of course. The schedule was taking shape organically. Weekend split, weeknight dinners when possible, constant texting to coordinate. It wasn't perfect, and there were still legal details to work out, but it was functioning. They were making it work. As Maya's car pulled away, Olivia waving from the back seat, Claire slipped her hand into Ethan's. I like having a sister, she said quietly. Yeah? Yeah, it's nice not being alone. Ethan's throat tightened. Claire had been alone in so many ways, losing her parents, adjusting to a new guardian, starting over in a new town. Now she had Olivia, and the change in her was visible. She smiled more, laughed easier, seemed lighter somehow. You were never alone, sweetheart. You always had me. I know, but now we have more people, and more people means more love, right? Right. She squeezed his hand. I'm glad you found Olivia's mom. Even if it was an accident. Me too, baby. Me too. The days blurred together in a new rhythm. School pickups where Ethan and Maya would stand talking while the girls played, dinners where they'd meet at neutral restaurants, and the four of them would navigate the strange territory of being a family that wasn't quite a family yet. Doctor. Chen's office every week, working through the complicated emotions that came with blending lives that had been separate for so long. And through it all, Ethan and Maya grew closer, slowly, carefully, like two people learning to trust again after betrayal. They didn't kiss, didn't even hold hands except for that one time in the coffee shop. But they talked, texted, called each other late at night when the girls were asleep and loneliness felt too heavy to carry alone. 2 weeks before Thanksgiving, Maya invited Ethan over after the girls were in bed, not for coffee or planning, just to talk. He arrived at 9, nervous in a way he hadn't been since he was 16 asking someone to prom. Maya answered the door in yoga pants and an old college sweatshirt, her hair in a messy bun, completely comfortable in a way that made his heart ache. Wine? She offered. Please. They settled on her couch, a respectable distance between them, glasses of red wine in hand. The house was quiet, except for the soft sound of rain against the windows. I've been thinking, Maya said after a few minutes of comfortable silence. About us. About what we're doing. Ethan's stomach clenched. Okay. And I realized I'm terrified of screwing this up again, of hurting you or the girls or myself, of wanting something I don't deserve. Maya, let me finish. She set down her wine glass. I'm terrified, but I'm also hopeful, and I haven't been hopeful about anything personal in 5 years. You did that. Coming back into my life, being good with Olivia, being patient with me. You made me believe that maybe second chances aren't just things that happen in movies. I believe in them too. I want to try, really try. Not just co-parenting, but us. Building something real. She turned to face him fully. But I need you to understand, if we do this, if we go down this road and it doesn't work out, it's not just us who get hurt, it's the girls. And I can't do that to Olivia. I won't. Then we make sure it works. How can you be so sure? Because we're not the same people we were 5 years ago. We've both been broken and put ourselves back together. We know what we're risking, and we're choosing it anyway. Ethan moved closer, close enough to see the flecks of gold in her eyes. I love you, Maya. I never stopped, and I think you love me too. I do, she whispered. I never stopped either. Even when I hated you, I loved you. Then we can make this work. We just have to be honest, communicate, not run when things get hard. Promise me. Promise me you won't leave again. I promise. As long as you promise not to disappear. I promise. The distance between them evaporated. Ethan cupped her face in his hands, his thumbs brushing her cheekbones, giving her every chance to pull away. She didn't. When their lips met, it was like coming home after years of being lost. Familiar but different, changed by time and pain and hope. Maya's hands tangled in his hair, and Ethan pulled her closer, 5 years of longing pouring into a kiss that tasted like wine and tears and second chances. When they finally pulled apart, both breathing hard, Maya laughed. That was worth the wait. We should probably still go slow. Definitely. This was just research. Very scientific. I'm a doctor. I believe in thorough investigation. Ethan kissed her again, softer this time. How thorough are we talking? Let's not get ahead of ourselves. But she was smiling, her forehead pressed against his. We have time. For the first time in 5 years, we have time. They spent the rest of the evening talking and kissing and making plans. Not for a future set in stone, but for a future they'd build together carefully, one day at a time. When Ethan finally left close to midnight, stepping out into the cold November night, he felt lighter than he had in years. The compass tattoo on his wrist caught the moonlight, and for the first time since the day he'd gotten it, he believed in what it represented. True north. Home. Maya. Thanksgiving week arrived with unexpected snow and the kind of nervous energy that comes from knowing your entire world is about to be scrutinized by people who have every right to judge you. Ethan's parents flew in Tuesday evening, and he picked them up from the airport with both girls in tow. His mother, Catherine, was a petite woman with silver hair and sharp eyes that missed nothing. His father, Robert, was quiet and steady, the kind of man who showed love through actions rather than words. There's my Claire Bear, Catherine exclaimed, scooping the 7-year-old into a fierce hug the moment they cleared security. Grandma, you're squishing me. That's what grandmas do. She released Claire and turned her attention to Olivia, who stood slightly behind Ethan, suddenly shy. And you must be Olivia. Yes, ma'am. Ma'am makes me feel ancient. Call me Grandma Catherine, or just Catherine if that feels weird right now. She crouched down to Olivia's level. Your daddy has told me so much about you. I've been waiting 7 years to meet you. Olivia's eyes widened. You have? Well, I didn't know about you for 7 years, but I've been waiting my whole life for more grandchildren. So 7 years, really. And you're just as beautiful as I imagined. The tension in Olivia's shoulders eased. Thank you. You're pretty, too. Catherine laughed, standing and pulling Ethan into a hug. I like her already. Good job not completely screwing this up. Thanks, Mom. Your confidence is overwhelming. Robert shook Ethan's hand, then surprised him by pulling him into a brief, tight hug. We're proud of you, son. This couldn't have been easy. It's not over yet. We still have to survive Thanksgiving with Maya's parents. How worried should we be? Susan Bennett is a retired high school principal. Tom Bennett is a tax attorney. They've been waiting 5 years to meet me and tell me exactly what they think of my parenting skills. Well, Catherine said cheerfully, linking arms with both girls, at least the food will be good. Nothing brings people together like carbs and awkward conversation. The drive back to Ethan's apartment was filled with Catherine's chatter and the girls' excited updates about school and friends and everything grandparents missed when they lived in Florida. Robert sat quietly in the passenger seat, but Ethan caught him smiling in the rearview mirror as the girls talked over each other. That night, after those girls were asleep in Claire's room, they'd insisted on another sleepover. Ethan sat with his parents at the kitchen table, nursing beers and dreading the conversation he knew was coming. So, Catherine said, because she'd never been one to avoid difficult topics, are you and Maya back together? We're taking it slow. That's not an answer. We're seeing where things go, focusing on the girls first. But you love her. Not a question. Ethan stared into his beer. I never stopped. Catherine reached across the table and squeezed his hand. Then I hope it works out. But Ethan, you need to be careful. Not just with your heart, but with theirs. She gestured toward Claire's bedroom. Those girls have already been through so much change. If you and Maya try this and it falls apart, it won't. You can't know that. I can know that I'll do everything in my power to make sure it doesn't, that we both will. We're not kids anymore, Mom. We know what's at stake. Robert spoke up, his voice quiet but firm. Your mother and I separated once. Did you know that? Ethan's head snapped up. What? You were 3. We'd been fighting for months about money, about my work schedule, about everything. She packed a bag and moved in with her sister for 2 weeks. Robert looked at his wife. It was the worst 2 weeks of my life. Mine too, Catherine admitted, but we needed it. Needed space to remember why we'd fallen in love in the first place. And when we got back together, we were different, more intentional. We'd learned that love isn't just a feeling. It's a choice you make every single day. Why didn't you ever tell me? Because it wasn't your burden to carry. But you're facing something similar now. You and Maya have been given a second chance. Don't waste it by rushing or by being careless. Choose each other every day, especially when it's hard. Ethan felt something tight in his chest loosen. How do you know we won't just make the same mistakes? You won't, Catherine said simply, because you have something you didn't have before. What's that? A reason bigger than yourselves. Those 2 girls in there need you both to get this right. And if I know anything about you, it's that you'll move heaven and earth for your children. Both of them, Ethan said. Olivia's mine too, even if I missed the first 7 years. Blood doesn't make family, Robert said. Love does. You proved that with Claire. You'll prove it with Olivia too. The next morning brought Maya's text at 7 a.m. My parents' flight lands at noon. We're all going to die. Ethan replied, We survived our 20s. We can survive this. Barely. Want me to bring wine? Bring all the wine. Wednesday afternoon, Ethan took Claire shopping for last-minute Thanksgiving supplies while his parents watched Olivia. The store was chaos, frazzled shoppers, crying children, employees who looked like they'd aged 10 years since morning. Claire pushed the cart while Ethan consulted Maya's detailed shopping list. Are you nervous about tomorrow? Claire asked, standing on the cart's lower rack to reach a can of cranberry sauce. A little? Why? You keep checking your phone. You always check your phone when you're nervous. Ethan pocketed his phone. I'm not that transparent. Dad, I'm 7, not stupid. Fair point. He grabbed the cranberry sauce. Are you nervous? Claire considered this. Kind of. I've never had Thanksgiving with Olivia's family before. What if they don't like me? They'll love you. You're extremely lovable. But what if they think I'm not a real sister because we don't have the same mom? Ethan stopped in the middle of the aisle, crouching down to Claire's level. Listen to me. You and Olivia are absolutely real sisters. You have the same dad, you love each other, and you drive each other crazy. That's the definition of sisters. Anyone who suggests otherwise is wrong. Even if they're adults? Especially if they're adults. Adults are wrong all the time. Claire giggled. Don't let Grandma hear you say that. Grandma already knows I'm a disaster. It's too late to impress her. They finished shopping and headed home, where Catherine had made lunch and Olivia was teaching Robert how to play some complicated card game that seemed to change rules every 5 minutes. The scene was so domestic, so normal, that Ethan felt a pang of grief for all the years this hadn't been possible. That evening, Maya called. Crisis. What kind of crisis? My mother just informed me that she's bringing her famous green bean casserole, which means your mother can't bring green bean casserole because there can only be one, and I don't know how to tell her that without starting World War III. Ethan moved to his bedroom for privacy. My mother's bringing pies. There was no mention of green bean casserole. Are you sure? Because I need you to be absolutely sure. Maya, breathe. It's going to be fine. My mother has been planning this menu for 2 weeks. She has a color-coded spreadsheet. A spreadsheet, Ethan. My mother stress bakes. They'll get along great. Or they'll compete and we'll end up with enough food to feed the entire neighborhood. Then we'll have leftovers for a month. Problem solved. Maya laughed, the sound slightly hysterical. I'm losing it. We haven't even made it to Thanksgiving, and I'm already losing it. You're not losing it. You're just nervous, which is normal. Our parents are meeting for the first time. Our daughters are going to be in the same room for an entire day. We're essentially announcing to everyone that we're trying again. That's a lot. When did you become the calm one? About 10 minutes ago. I'm faking it really well. Fake it tomorrow too? I'll do my best. There was a pause, then Maya said more quietly, I'm glad you're here. I couldn't do this without you. You could, but you don't have to. That's the point. I love you. The words still hit him like a freight train, even though she'd said them before. I love you too. See you tomorrow. Try to sleep. You too. Neither of them slept well. Thanksgiving morning arrived gray and cold, with the promise of more snow later. Ethan was up at 6, making coffee and trying to calm the anxiety churning in his stomach. His parents emerged shortly after, Catherine already dressed and ready to cook. What can I do? She asked, surveying his kitchen with the critical eye of someone who knew her way around a stove. We're bringing pies and wine. Maya's mother is handling most of the cooking. Then I'm bringing my sweet potato casserole too. No arguments. We're going to show up with more than dessert. Ethan knew better than to argue. By 10 a.m., they were loaded into Ethan's SUV, 2 adults, 2 children, 3 pies, 1 casserole, and enough nervous energy to power a small city. The drive to Maya's house took 15 minutes but felt like hours. Is that it? The yellow door? Catherine asked as they pulled up. That's it. It's charming, very homey. Claire and Olivia, who'd been whispering in the back seat, suddenly went quiet. Both girls pressed their faces to the window, taking in the house that would host this momentous occasion. Ready? Ethan asked. No, both girls said in unison. Me neither, Robert admitted. Well, we're doing it anyway. Catherine opened her door. Bennett family, here we come. Maya answered the door wearing a navy dress that made her eyes look impossibly dark and an expression that suggested she was approximately 3 seconds from a panic attack. Behind her, the house smelled like turkey and herbs and the kind of home cooking that made everything feel safer. Hi, she said, her voice slightly too bright. Come in, please. Everyone's in the living room. Ethan's first impression of Susan and Tom Bennett was that they looked exactly like the kind of people who'd raise a doctor, put together, intelligent, and currently examining him with the intensity of scientists studying a particularly interesting specimen. Susan was tall and elegant, with Maya's eyes and a posture that screamed, retired educator. Tom was shorter, stocky, with salt and pepper hair, and the kind of handshake that was clearly meant to communicate something about strength and protection. Mr. and Mrs. Bennett, Ethan said, shaking both their hands. It's nice to finally meet you. Ethan, Susan said, her smile polite but not yet warm. We've heard a lot about you. I'm sure you have. Most of it probably true. Tom's expression cracked slightly. At least you're honest. Catherine swept forward, hand extended. Susan, Tom, I'm Catherine Carter, and this is my husband, Robert. We're thrilled to finally meet you. The parents shook hands, exchanged pleasantries, engaged in the delicate dance of people who were connected by grandchildren, but strangers in every other way. Meanwhile, the girls had disappeared into Olivia's room, and Maya was showing Robert where to put the casserole. Ethan found himself alone with Susan in the kitchen. She looks like you, Susan said, watching Olivia through the doorway. Maya always said she did, but seeing you both together, it's obvious. She has Maya's smile, and your stubbornness, from what I hear. Susan turned to face him fully. I'm not going to pretend this isn't awkward. For 5 years, you were the man who'd abandoned my daughter. Then I find out the story is more complicated, that you didn't even know about Olivia. And now you're here, in my daughter's life again, and I'm supposed to just trust that you won't hurt her. I can't promise I won't hurt her, Ethan said honestly. People who love each other sometimes hurt each other, even when they don't mean to. But I can promise that I'll try my hardest not to, and that if I do hurt her, it won't be because I didn't care or didn't try. Susan studied him for a long moment. Maya loves you. She's loved you for 8 years, even when she hated you, even when she thought she'd never see you again. Do you understand what that means? It means I have a responsibility to be worthy of it. It means you have a chance most people don't get. Don't waste it. I won't. Good. Susan's expression softened slightly. Now help me with these vegetables. If we're going to be family, you might as well make yourself useful. The rest of the morning passed in a flurry of cooking and small talk. Tom and Robert bonded over football, arguing good-naturedly about teams while avoiding any topic more serious than playoff predictions. Catherine and Susan took over the kitchen, their initial wariness giving way to the universal language of women who knew how to run a household. The girls emerged periodically to steal snacks and report on whatever game they were playing, then disappeared again. Maya and Ethan found themselves relegated to setting the table and staying out of the way. "Your mom is terrifying," Ethan whispered as they folded napkins. "Your mom just told mine that she's happy we're giving Olivia a proper family. I'm not sure if that was a compliment or a dig at my single parenting. Knowing my mother, probably both. They're getting along though, that's good, right?" "That's very good. My mom only shares recipes with people she likes." Maya glanced toward the kitchen, where indeed Catherine was writing something down, while Susan pointed at what looked like a cookbook. "My mom only shares her cookbook with people she respects. So we're good. We might actually survive this." At 2 o'clock, they gathered around Maya's dining room table, a table that had been extended with a leaf to accommodate 10 people but still felt crowded. Susan had outdone herself with the food, turkey golden and perfect, stuffing that smelled like Ethan's childhood, mashed potatoes, gravy, green bean casserole, cranberry sauce, both canned and homemade, rolls that were still warm. They held hands around the table, a circle of people connected by complicated history and tentative hope. Tom, as the eldest, led the prayer. "We're grateful today for family," he said, "both the family we're born with and the family we choose, for second chances and new beginnings, for the children who bring us together and remind us what matters, and for this meal, prepared with love and only minor disasters in the kitchen." "There were no disasters," Susan protested. "You set the oven mitt on fire, dear." "That was a small flame, barely worth mentioning." Laughter rippled around the table, breaking the remaining tension. They ate and talked and argued about everything from politics to pie recipes. The girls told stories about school, exaggerating for effect and making the adults laugh. Robert shared embarrassing stories about Ethan's childhood, which Claire found hilarious and Ethan found mortifying. "Tell them about the treehouse incident," Catherine suggested. "Absolutely not." "Oh, now we have to hear it," Maya said, grinning. "Ethan decided at age 10 that he was going to build a treehouse," Robert began. "Without plans, without supervision, using tools he definitely wasn't qualified to use." "It was a good treehouse," Ethan protested. "It was a death trap held together by optimism and duct tape. The whole thing collapsed the first time he tried to climb into it." "Did you get hurt?" Olivia asked, eyes wide. "Just my pride. And my tailbone." "That's when we knew he was going to be an architect," Catherine added. He spent the next week redesigning the treehouse on paper, calculating weight distribution and structural integrity. Built the second version perfectly. "I was a determined child." "You're a determined adult," Maya said softly, and the look that passed between them made Susan smile. After dinner, while the adults cleaned up, the girls played in the living room. Ethan found himself at the sink washing dishes alongside Tom, who'd volunteered with the kind of deliberate intention that suggested he wanted a private conversation. "You're good with her," Tom said, scrubbing a plate. "Olivia, Maya said you've taken to fatherhood naturally." "I've had practice with Claire." "It's not the same, though, is it? Claire you raised from grief and necessity. Olivia, you're choosing." Ethan considered this. "I don't think of it as choosing. She's my daughter. That's not a choice, it's just a fact. The choosing comes in how I show up for her." "And you're planning to show up? Every day? For as long as she'll have me." Tom nodded, setting the plate in the drying rack. "I misjudged you. When Maya first told us about you, I assumed the worst, thought you were the kind of man who'd walk away from responsibility. But you're not, are you?" "I try not to be." "Maya deserves someone who tries. She's been trying alone for too long." "I know. I plan to make sure she doesn't have to try alone anymore." "Good." Tom clapped him on the shoulder. "Because if you hurt my daughter again, retired or not, I'll make your life very difficult. I know tax law. I can audit you forever." Ethan couldn't help but laugh. "Understood. I'll be on my best behavior." "See that you are." By evening, the house had settled into comfortable chaos. The girls were half asleep on the couch, bellies full of turkey and pie. The adults sat in the living room with coffee and leftover pie, conversation flowing easily now that the initial awkwardness had passed. "This was nice," Susan said, addressing the room. "I wasn't sure it would be, but it was." "We should do Christmas together," Catherine suggested, "if everyone's comfortable with that." Ethan and Maya exchanged glances. Christmas was 6 weeks away. 6 weeks to solidify whatever they were building. 6 weeks for things to either work or fall apart. "I think that sounds wonderful," Maya said. "Our house in Florida," Robert added. "We have plenty of room. The girls would love the beach." Olivia perked up at that. "The beach? For Christmas?" "It's not traditional," Catherine admitted. "But it's warm and we have a pool and your grandfather grills a mean turkey. Can we, Mom, please?" Olivia's tiredness had vanished at the prospect of an adventure. "Can we, Daddy?" Claire added. Ethan looked at Maya, saw the same hope and fear he felt reflected in her eyes. This was a big step. Meeting the parents was one thing. Planning holidays together was something else entirely. But maybe that was the point. Maybe you built a life not by grand gestures, but by small commitments, by saying yes to Christmas plans and shared dinners and all the ordinary moments that added up to extraordinary. "Yes," Maya said, "we can." The girls cheered, the grandparents started planning, and Ethan reached under the table to take Maya's hand, squeezing gently. She squeezed back. Later, after Ethan's parents had returned to his apartment with Claire and the Bennetts had retreated to the guest room, Ethan and Maya stood on her front porch in the cold November night. The snow that had been threatening all day had finally started, soft flakes drifting down and catching in Maya's hair. "We survived," she said. "We did more than survive. I think they actually like each other. My mom threatened to send your mom her meatloaf recipe. That's basically a marriage proposal in her world. My dad invited your dad to a Cubs game next spring. In dad language, that means they're best friends now." Maya laughed, her breath forming clouds in the cold air. "How did this become our life?" "Luck, timing, a 7-year-old with excellent observational skills. Olivia did start all of this, didn't she? Best accident we ever had." Maya turned to face him, snowflakes catching on her eyelashes. "Ethan, I'm terrified we're going to screw this up. That we're moving too fast, planning too much, building something that's going to collapse." "We might," he admitted. "We might screw it up spectacularly, but we might also get it right this time. And I'd rather try and fail than spend the rest of my life wondering what if." "Even with everything at stake?" "Especially with everything at stake." She kissed him then, soft and sweet and full of promises neither of them knew if they could keep, but were willing to try anyway. When they pulled apart, both were smiling. "Merry early Christmas," Maya whispered. "We haven't even finished Thanksgiving leftovers yet." "I know, but I'm already looking forward to Florida, to watching the girls play in the ocean, to having coffee with you on Christmas morning, to all of it." "Me too." They stood together in the falling snow, two people who'd lost each other once and found each other again, building something fragile and beautiful and worth fighting for. Inside, through the window, Ethan could see Olivia peeking through the curtain, watching them. When she saw him looking, she waved enthusiastically, then gave him 2 thumbs up. He waved back, his heart full of a kind of happiness he'd forgotten was possible. Tomorrow they'd wake up and navigate the complicated reality of co-parenting and relationship building and all the messy details that came with trying to blend 2 lives into one family. But tonight, standing in the snow with Maya's hand in his, Ethan let himself believe that some broken things could be repaired, that some compasses, even after years of pointing in different directions, could find their way back to true north. December arrived with a vengeance, bringing snowstorms that closed schools and ice that made the morning commute treacherous. But inside the careful world Ethan and Maya were building, everything felt warmer. The custody arrangement had been formalized through their lawyers, a document that spelled out weekends and holidays and summer breaks in legal language that somehow made their unconventional family feel more real. Joint custody, shared decisions. 2 homes for 2 daughters who were learning that family didn't have to look one specific way to be whole. Ethan had started spending more evenings at Maya's house, ostensibly to help with homework or share dinner, but really because being apart felt increasingly difficult. They moved slowly, deliberately, conscious of two pairs of eyes watching their every interaction. No sleepovers yet, no moving in together. Just dinners and movie nights and the gradual interweaving of lives that had been separate for too long. One Saturday morning in mid-December, Ethan woke to his phone buzzing insistently. Maya's name flashed on the screen. "It's 7 a.m. on a Saturday," he groaned into the phone. "I know, I'm sorry, but we have a problem." He sat up immediately, fully awake. "What kind of problem?" "Mrs. Morrison across the street just put her house up for sale." Ethan waited for the crisis. "Okay?" "It's the Colonial, the one with the big front porch and the maple tree in the yard and the extra lot that backs up to the park." "Maya, I still don't understand why this is a 7 a.m. emergency." "Because it's perfect, Ethan. It's got 4 bedrooms, a finished basement, a yard big enough for the girls to play in. It's 2 blocks from their school. And I know we said we weren't going to rush things, but you want us to buy a house together." He said it flatly, testing the weight of the words. Silence on the other end. Then quietly, "Is that crazy?" Ethan got out of bed, padding to the window. Snow covered everything, making the world look clean and new. "Maybe. Probably. We've only been officially together for a month. 5 weeks. That doesn't make it less crazy." "I know. But Ethan, I keep thinking about what we're doing. This back and forth, splitting the girls' time, maintaining 2 households when we're basically a family already. And I know it's practical and safe and the smart thing to do, but I'm tired of being practical. I spent 5 years being practical and safe, and all it got me was lonely." He heard the catch in her voice and his chest tightened. "Can I come over?" "Now. Right now. Don't look at the house without me." I wasn't going to. Okay, I was totally going to look at it, but I'll wait. Ethan threw on clothes, left a note for his still sleeping parents who were staying through the weekend, and drove across town in the early morning quiet. Maya's house looked like something from a postcard. Windows glowing warm, snow on the roof. Christmas lights she'd let Olivia help hang blinking multicolored against the white. She met him at the door in flannel pajama pants and one of his old sweatshirts that she'd apparently stolen at some point. Her hair was a mess and she had no makeup on, and she'd never looked more beautiful. "Hi," she said. "Show me the house." They walked 2 blocks through the snow, neither speaking, their breath forming clouds in the frigid air. The Colonial sat on a corner lot, graceful and solid with good bones and the kind of character that came from being well loved. The for sale sign was fresh, the realtor's number already accumulating snow. 4 bedrooms, Maya said, pointing. 1 for us, 1 for each girl, and 1 for guests or an office. The basement could be a playroom. There's a garage and a workshop. And look at that porch. Can you imagine summer evenings out there? Ethan could imagine it. Too easily. The girls running through the yard, Maya reading on the porch swing, him grilling dinner while music played from inside. All the ordinary moments that added up to a life. "It's too soon," he said, but his voice lacked conviction. "I know. We should wait. Be sensible. Follow the timeline Dr. Chen suggested." "I know. People will think we're insane." "Probably." He turned to face her. "But you want to do it anyway." "I want to stop waiting for the other shoe to drop. I want to stop being so afraid of making another mistake that we don't take chances on good things. I want the girls to have a home where they don't have to pack bags and remember which toys are at which house. I want to wake up with you every morning and go to sleep with you every night. I want us to be a real family, Ethan, not just a custody arrangement with feelings. Maya, and I know it's fast. I know we could crash and burn. I know buying a house together is a huge commitment. And if it doesn't work out, it'll be messy and complicated and possibly the stupidest thing we've ever done." She stepped closer, her eyes fierce. "But I'd rather be stupid and brave than careful and lonely. I've been careful. It didn't make me happy. You make me happy." Ethan pulled her into his arms, breathing in the scent of her shampoo and coffee and home. "We'd need to get it inspected, make sure there's no foundation issues or electrical problems." He felt her smile against his chest. "Obviously. And we'd need to talk to the girls, make sure they're okay with it." "They'll be thrilled." "Olivia's been asking why you don't just live with us. We'd need to figure out finances, how we split the mortgage and utilities. We're both employed adults. We'll figure it out." He pulled back to look at her. "You're sure about this? Really sure? Because once we do this, There's no going back to separate lives if it gets hard. I don't want to go back. I want to go forward. With you. With our daughters. In a house with a porch and a yard and enough bedrooms for everyone to have their space when they need it. She cupped his face in her cold hands. I'm sure, Ethan. Are you? He thought about the apartment he'd chosen for its light and proximity to school, thought about how it had never quite felt like home, just a place he slept between the moments that mattered. Thought about Maya's house with its yellow door and how it felt right every time he walked through it. Thought about building something permanent, something that couldn't be undone by a fight, or a misunderstanding, or fear. I'm sure, he said. Let's call the realtor. They went back to Maya's house and made coffee and sat at her kitchen table looking at the listing on her laptop. The house had been built in 1925, updated thoughtfully over the years, with original hardwood floors and a renovated kitchen and bathrooms that managed to feel modern without losing character. The price was reasonable for the neighborhood. The photos showed sun streaming through windows and built-in bookshelves and a fireplace in the living room. We could make an offer today, Maya said, scrolling through pictures. The market moves fast this time of year, people wanting to close before the new year. Let's see it first. Inside, I mean. With the girls. When? Ethan checked his phone. The listing says showings start Monday. I could call and see if they'd do something today. On a Saturday before Christmas? People sell houses on Saturdays. Maya bit her lip, then nodded. Call. The realtor, a cheerful woman named Patricia, who clearly lived for her job, met them at the house 2 hours later. By then, Ethan had collected Claire and his parents, Maya had woken Olivia, and both sets of grandparents had heard the plan and responded with varying degrees of shock and support. You're really doing this? Catherine had asked, but she'd been smiling. We're really doing this, Ethan confirmed. Then I'm happy for you. Terrified, but happy. Now they all stood in the driveway of 847 Maple Street, 2 adults, 2 children, 4 grandparents, and 1 very enthusiastic realtor. It's big, Claire whispered, staring up at the house. It's beautiful, Olivia breathed. Patricia unlocked the door and ushered them inside. The house smelled like cinnamon and old wood and potential. The living room was spacious with high ceilings, and that promised fireplace. The dining room had built-in cabinets and room for a table that could seat 12. The kitchen was updated with white cabinets and butcher block counters and a window over the sink that looked out at the backyard. But it was the upstairs that sold it. 4 bedrooms, exactly as advertised. The master was large with an attached bathroom and a reading nook in the turret. 2 medium-sized bedrooms faced the front, perfect for the girls. And a smaller 4th bedroom sat at the back of the house, quiet and full of light. This could be your room, Ethan told Claire, showing her one of the front bedrooms. We could paint it any color you want. Claire walked around slowly, testing the closet, looking out the window. Can I see Olivia's room from here? Probably. Hers would be right next door. And you and Dr. Bennett would be across the hall? That's right. She turned to face him, her expression serious in the way only children can be when processing something important. Are you going to marry her? The question hung in the air. Patricia had tactfully moved to show the grandparents the basement. Maya was in Olivia's potential room. It was just Ethan and Claire in this empty bedroom, having a conversation that felt far too grown up. I don't know yet, Ethan said honestly. Maybe, probably, but we're taking it one step at a time. But you love her? Yes. And she loves you? Yes. And we'd all live here together, like a real family? If you're okay with that. If Olivia's okay with that. This is a big change, sweetheart. Your feelings matter. Claire walked to the window again, looking out at the snow-covered yard. I miss my mom and dad, she said quietly. Uncle Marcus and Aunt Jennifer. I know I call you Dad now, and I love you, but I still miss them. Ethan knelt beside her, his heart breaking. Of course you do. That's normal and healthy, and they'd be so proud of you. Do you think they'd be okay with this? With you and Dr. Bennett and Olivia? I think they'd want you to be happy, and they'd love that you have more people in your life who love you. Claire nodded slowly. I like Olivia, and I like Dr. Bennett. She makes good pancakes. She does make good pancakes. And this room is really pretty. I could put my bookshelf under that window. You could. She turned back to him, decision made with the quick certainty of childhood. Okay, let's live here, but I want purple paint. Ethan laughed, pulling her into a hug. Purple paint it is. Across the hall, Maya was having a similar conversation with Olivia. What do you think? Maya asked, sitting on the floor of the empty bedroom. Olivia joined her, their backs against the wall. It's a lot bigger than my room now. Would that be okay? Yeah, I could put my dollhouse in that corner and my desk by the window. She paused. Would Ethan live here too? Yes, and Claire. We'd all live here together. Like a family? We're already a family, sweetheart. This would just mean we all sleep in the same house. Olivia processed this, her face scrunched in concentration. Jenny Carpenter at school has 2 houses. One for her mom and one for her dad, and she has to remember where all her stuff is. She says it's annoying. It can be. I don't want to be annoying. I want all my stuff in one place. She looked at her mother. Are you going to marry him? Ethan? Maya's breath caught. Would you be okay with that if I did? Duh. He's my dad. You're my mom. That's what parents do. They get married and live together. It's a little more complicated than that. Adults always say that, but it seems pretty simple to me. You love him. He loves you. You both love me and Claire. So you should all be together. Olivia stood up, brushing dust off her pants. Can I have that room with the window seat? Claire can have this one. We should let Claire choose first. Be fair. She'll want the purple room. I heard her tell Grandma Catherine she wants everything purple now. Maya stood too, marveling at her daughter's adaptability. You're really okay with all this? It's a big change. Olivia hugged her mother tight. Change is okay if it makes things better. You said that to me when we moved to this town. Remember? I remember. This makes things better, so it's good change. They found Ethan and Claire in the hallway, both wearing matching grins. Purple, Claire announced. Window seat, Olivia countered. Deal. They shook hands solemnly, then ran downstairs to explore the basement with the grandparents. Maya and Ethan stood alone in the hallway of a house that wasn't theirs yet, but already felt like home. They're okay with it, Maya said, slightly stunned. More than okay. Claire just told me I should marry you so we can have pizza parties every Friday. Olivia's reasoning was slightly different, but arrived at the same conclusion. So we're doing this. Actually doing this. Maya took his hand. Let's make an offer. They made the offer that afternoon. Full asking price, flexible closing date, a letter to the sellers about their family and their daughters, and their hope to fill the house with love and noise and life. Patricia promised to present it immediately and get back to them by Monday. The weekend crawled by. Ethan threw himself into Christmas shopping, buying presents for the girls and their grandparents and Maya. His parents flew back to Florida Sunday evening with promises to return for the holidays. The girls had their last week of school before Christmas break, full of concerts and parties and the frantic energy that came with impending vacation. Monday morning, Patricia called. They accepted your offer. The sellers loved your letter. They want this house to go to a family. Maya screamed when Ethan told her. Actually screamed right there in the hospital parking lot between patients, causing several nurses to come running. We got it? She asked, breathless. We got it. We got it! She kissed him right there in front of her colleagues and the December cold and anyone who cared to watch, and Ethan kissed her back, both of them laughing and freezing and happier than they'd been in years. The closing was set for January 15th, giving them just enough time to get through the holidays and arrange financing and plan the move. They told the girls that evening over celebratory pizza. We're moving to the Purple Room house, Claire shouted, dancing around Maya's kitchen. When? When can we move? Olivia demanded. Middle of January, Ethan said, which means we have Christmas here, New Year's in Florida with the grandparents, and then we move into the new house. This is the best Christmas ever, Claire declared. Christmas hasn't even happened yet, Maya pointed out. Doesn't matter. Already the best. That night, after the girls were asleep in Olivia's room, they'd taken to having sleepovers whenever possible, cementing their sisterhood through whispered secrets and shared blankets. Ethan and Maya sat on her couch with hot chocolate and looked at paint samples. Purple for Claire's room, Maya said, holding up various shades. But which purple? Lavender? Violet? Plum? Let her choose. It's her room. And Olivia wants pale blue for hers, like the ocean, she said. We can do that. Maya set down the paint samples. What about our room? What do we want? I don't care what color it is as long as you're in it. That's very sweet and completely unhelpful for decorating purposes. Warm gray? Soft white? Something neutral that won't clash with furniture? Look at you being practical. One of us has to be since you made a 7 a.m. phone call about buying a house. Maya laughed, settling into his side. No regrets? None. You? Not a single one. She paused. My lease here is up in March. We could talk to the landlord about breaking it early, cover the penalty fee. Or we could keep it through March and use it as storage while we renovate. The new house needs some work. That's actually smart. I have my moments. They sat in comfortable silence, planning their future in paint colors and furniture arrangements, and all the mundane details that made a house a home. Outside, snow fell again, blanketing the world in white. Ethan? Maya said softly. Yeah? Thank you. For coming back, for staying, for choosing us. You're my true north, Maya. I always find my way back to you. She tilted her face up to kiss him, and Ethan thought about compasses and stars and promises made in tattoo parlors when they were young and foolish and so certain love would be enough. Maybe it hadn't been enough then, but they weren't those people anymore. They'd been broken and rebuilt, tested and tempered. And this time, love wasn't just a feeling, it was a choice they made every single day. Christmas in Florida was chaos in the best possible way. Catherine and Robert's house sat right on the beach, with a pool in the backyard and enough bedrooms for everyone. The girls spent their days building sandcastles and collecting shells and learning to body surf in the gentle waves. The adults rotated between the pool and the kitchen and long walks on the beach at sunset. On Christmas Eve, after the girls were asleep, all 6 adults sat on the back porch with wine and the sound of waves in the distance. I never thought I'd see this, Susan said, watching Tom and Robert argue about the best way to grill fish. Our family's together, Maya happy again. It's good to see, Catherine agreed. Ethan's been carrying grief for so long, first from losing Maya, then from losing Marcus. It's nice to see him find joy again. Maya reached over and squeezed Catherine's hand. Thank you for raising a good man. Thank you for giving him a second chance. Not every woman would. Not every man would deserve one. The mothers smiled at each other, an understanding passing between them that needed no words. Christmas morning brought presents and pancakes and the kind of chaos that only children could create. The girls opened their gifts with appropriate amounts of screaming, bikes from Ethan and Maya, art supplies from one set of grandparents, matching charm bracelets from the other. But the best gift came later, when the adults had retreated to the porch and the girls were testing out their new bikes on the quiet street in front of the house. Ethan pulled a small box from his pocket. Maya's eyes went wide. Ethan, it's not what you think. I mean, it is, but it's also not. Just open it. Inside was a silver compass pendant on a delicate chain. The compass face was detailed and beautiful, with a tiny M-shaped star at the north point. It's gorgeous, Maya breathed. It's a promise, not an engagement ring. We're still taking things one step at a time, but a promise that I'll always find my way back to you, that you're my home, my true north, my always. Maya's hands shook as she lifted the necklace from the box. Help me put it on? He fastened it around her neck, the compass settling just above her heart. Then he pulled out a second box, this one containing a matching compass on a leather cord. For me? He asked. Always. She fastened it around his neck, her fingers lingering on his skin. They stood there on the porch, wearing matching compasses, and kissed while their parents pretended not to watch, and the girls shouted from the street about who was faster on their bikes. I love you, Maya whispered. More than I knew it was possible to love someone. I love you too, and when we're ready, when the time is right, I'm going to ask you to marry me properly, with a ring and a speech and everything. I'll say yes, just so you know. Whenever you ask, the answer is yes. Good to know I won't be humiliated. You could never be humiliated with me. Annoyed, frustrated, occasionally driven to drink, but never humiliated. He laughed, pulling her closer. That's the most romantic thing anyone's ever said to me. I'm full of romance. It's my thing. January 15th arrived with unseasonable warmth and a moving truck. Ethan had hired professional movers for the heavy furniture, but he and Maya had packed most of the boxes themselves, sorting through years of accumulated belongings and deciding what deserved space in their new shared life. The girls bounced between the old houses and the new one, claiming spaces and arguing over where furniture should go, and generally being underfoot in the way only excited children could be. The grandparents had all flown in to help, and the house filled with noise and laughter and the organized chaos of a family in transition. By evening, the major furniture was in place. Claire's room was painted purple. She'd chosen a soft lavender that made the space feel like a fairy tale. Olivia's room was ocean blue, with white curtains that billowed in the breeze from the window. She insisted stay open despite the temperature. The master bedroom was a warm gray, peaceful and adult in theirs. They ordered pizza for dinner, a tradition now, and ate it sitting on the floor of the living room since the dining table wasn't assembled yet. This is weird, Olivia announced, tomato sauce on her chin. Good weird or bad weird? Maya asked. Good weird, like everything's different, but also the same. That's a very wise observation, Robert said. I'm a very wise person, Olivia said seriously, making the adults laugh. After dinner, after the grandparents had gone back to their hotel, and the girls had been tucked into their new beds in their new rooms, Ethan and Maya stood in their bedroom surrounded by boxes and possibility. We did it, Maya said. We actually did it. We did. Ethan pulled her into his arms. How do you feel? Terrified, excited, happy, like I'm waiting for something to go wrong because this feels too good to be real. It's real. We're real. This house, these girls, this life we're building, it's all real. Promise? Promise. They unpacked until midnight, creating order from chaos, building their home box by box. When they finally climbed into bed in their room, in their house, Maya curled into Ethan's side like she'd been doing it forever. What are you thinking? She asked, her hand resting over his heart. That 5 years ago, if someone had told me this is where I'd be, I wouldn't have believed them. That I'd have 2 daughters, a house, and the woman I'd never stopped loving back in my arms, I would have thought it was impossible. But here we are. Here we are. They fell asleep to the sound of their house settling around them, the whisper of the wind through the maple tree outside, the distant sound of one of the girls coughing and then settling back into sleep. All the ordinary sounds of a family at rest. The next 6 months passed in a blur of normalcy that felt miraculous precisely because it was normal. School days and soccer practices and dance recitals, family dinners around the table they'd finally assembled, movie nights where all 4 of them would pile on the couch with popcorn and argue about what to watch. Lazy Sunday mornings where Ethan would make pancakes while Maya read the paper and the girls would do puzzles at the kitchen table. They fought sometimes, about whose turn it was to do dishes, about whether the girls needed new winter coats or could make do with last year's, about money and schedules and all the things couples fought about. But they'd learned how to fight fair, how to communicate instead of assuming, how to apologize and forgive, and move forward. Doctor. Chen's office became less about crisis management and more about maintenance, checking in, addressing small issues before they became big ones, celebrating victories. You're doing remarkably well, Dr. Chen told them during a session in April. Most blended families take years to find their rhythm. You've done it in months. We're highly motivated, Maya said, smiling at Ethan. You're also willing to do the work. That matters more than motivation. On a warm Saturday in May, Ethan took the girls to the park while Maya had a rare morning to herself. They played on the swings and the slides, and Claire taught Olivia how to pump her legs to go higher. Dad? Olivia said. She'd started calling him Dad in March, casually, like it was the most natural thing in the world. Can I ask you something? Always. Are you going to marry Mom? Ethan had been expecting this question for months. What makes you ask? Emma at school said her parents got married and then they all lived together. We already lived together, so I thought maybe you'd skip to the married part. Claire jumped off her swing, landing in the mulch with a thud. Are you going to propose with a ring? Maybe. Would that be okay with you both? The girls looked at each other, having one of those silent conversations that siblings could have without words. Only if we can help, Olivia said. Help with what? With proposing. We could make signs or decorate or something, make it special. And we should do it somewhere Mom likes, Claire added, like the beach or the park or that coffee shop where you had your first date. Ethan's heart swelled. You two want to help me propose to your mother? Duh, they said in unison. Well then, I guess we're planning a proposal. They spent the next 2 weeks plotting in secret. The girls made signs. Will you marry us? In careful lettering decorated with hearts and flowers. Ethan bought a ring, a simple platinum band with a single diamond that caught the light and made him think of stars and compasses and promises kept. He planned it for the anniversary of the day they'd seen each other again in the school parking lot. A year since that first shocked moment, since Olivia's innocent observation about matching tattoos had unraveled and rebuilt their lives. The evening was perfect, warm and clear with the kind of sunset that painted the sky in impossible colors. Ethan told Maya they were having a family picnic at the park. Nothing special, just dinner outside while the weather was good. She suspected nothing. They spread blankets under the big oak tree near the playground. The girls had packed the picnic basket with Maya's favorite foods: cheese and crackers, grapes, strawberries, chocolate, a bottle of wine for the adults, juice boxes for the girls. They ate and talked and watched other families play. And when the sun started to set, when the sky turned pink and gold, the girls pulled out their signs. Maya saw them first, her eyes going wide. What? Mom, Olivia said, suddenly serious. We have something to ask you. Will you? Claire started. Marry us? Olivia finished. They held up their signs, grinning from ear to ear. Maya's hands flew to her mouth, tears already spilling over. She looked at Ethan, who was down on one knee, ring box open. Maya Bennett, he said, his voice steady despite his racing heart. 8 years ago, we got matching tattoos and promised to always find our way back to each other. We lost each other for a while. We made mistakes, we hurt each other, but we found our way back. And now we have these 2 incredible girls who are asking if you'll make us a complete family. Will you marry me? Will you marry us? Maya was crying too hard to speak. She nodded frantically, reaching for Ethan, for the girls, pulling all of them into a hug that became a tangle of arms and tears and laughter. Yes, she finally managed. Yes, 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 to all of you. Always yes. Ethan slipped the ring on her finger, and the girls cheered, and somewhere in the park, someone started clapping. Soon other families joined in, strangers celebrating this moment of joy, even though they didn't know the story behind it. I love you, Maya whispered into Ethan's ear. All 3 of you. We love you too, he whispered back. Our true north, our home, our always. They were married in August in Maya's parents' backyard under an arch covered in flowers the girls had helped choose. The wedding was small. Immediate family, close friends, doctor. Chenhut helped them navigate the difficult waters of blending their lives. Claire and Olivia served as flower girls and junior bridesmaids, wearing matching dresses and carrying matching bouquets and beaming with pride. Susan walked Maya down the aisle, while Tom stood as Ethan's best man, a gesture that meant more than Ethan could express. The ceremony was simple and heartfelt, with vows they'd written themselves that spoke of second chances and forgiveness and choosing each other every day. But the most important moment came after they'd been pronounced married, after they'd kissed to applause and cheers. Ethan and Maya knelt down to the girls' level. We have something for you, Ethan said, pulling out 2 small boxes. Inside each box was a delicate silver bracelet with a single charm, a compass, matching the tattoos on their parents' wrists and the necklaces around their necks. So we're all connected, Maya explained, fastening Olivia's bracelet. No matter where we go, no matter what happens, we can always find our way home to each other. Because we're a family, Claire said, admiring her bracelet. Because we're a family, Ethan confirmed. The reception was full of dancing and cake and toasts that made everyone cry and laugh in equal measure. Robert talked about watching his son rebuild himself after loss and find love again. Susan spoke about her daughter's strength and resilience and capacity for forgiveness. Catherine made everyone laugh with stories about Ethan and Marcus's children, then made them cry by saying how proud Marcus would have been to see his brother so happy. As the evening wound down, as the stars came out and the dancing slowed, Ethan found Maya at the edge of the dance floor, watching their daughter spin in dizzy circles with their grandparents. Happy? He asked, pulling her into his arms. Deliriously. You? More than I ever thought possible. They swayed together to music that was too fast for slow dancing, not caring, perfectly content in their own rhythm. Do you ever think about how we got here? Maya asked. How many tiny choices had to line up exactly right for this to happen? All the time. If Claire hadn't mentioned your tattoo, if we'd gone to different schools, if I'd moved to a different town, if I'd been braver 5 years ago, if you'd come back sooner, if we'd both been better at communication. But we weren't, and we're here anyway. We're here anyway, Maya repeated, smiling. I used to think that was sad, all the time we lost. But now I think maybe we needed to lose each other to appreciate what we have. Very philosophical for someone who's had 3 glasses of champagne. I'm a woman of depth and wisdom. You're a woman I'm incredibly lucky to call my wife. Wife, Maya tested the word. I like how that sounds. Mrs. Carter. Dr. Bennett Carter, thank you very much. I didn't go to medical school to lose my name. Dr. Bennett Carter it is. They danced until the DJ packed up, until the last guests had said their goodbyes, until it was just family cleaning up and the girls asleep on a blanket under the stars. They carried their daughters to the car, their daughters, plural, both of them, and drove home to the house on Maple Street. Home. The word had never felt more right. A year later, on a crisp October morning, Ethan stood in the kitchen making pancakes while Maya read the paper and the girls argued about whose turn it was to set the table. Through the window, he could see the maple tree in full autumn glory, leaves turning gold and red. Dad, Claire's not helping, Olivia complained. Dad, Olivia's being bossy, Claire countered. You're both helping and you're both being slightly bossy, Ethan ruled. Compromise. Claire sets the table. Olivia pours the juice. That's not fair. Life's not fair. Pancakes in 5 minutes. Move. The girls grumbled but complied, and Maya looked up from her paper with a smile. You're getting good at this parenting thing. I've had good practice. Speaking of which, she folded the paper, her expression shifting to something more serious. I have news. Ethan's stomach dropped. Good news or bad news? Depends on your perspective. I'm pregnant. The spatula fell from his hand, clattering against the stove. You're... what? Pregnant, about 8 weeks along. I know we weren't trying, but apparently we weren't being as careful as we thought, and... He crossed the kitchen in 3 strides and kissed her, cutting off her nervous rambling. When he pulled back, they were both grinning like idiots. A baby, he said, wonder in his voice. A baby, she confirmed. We're having a baby. We're having a baby. The girls who'd been eavesdropping from the dining room came running. A baby? We're getting a baby? Olivia shrieked. Can we help name it? Claire demanded. When? When is the baby coming? Both girls asked at once. Maya laughed, pulling them both into a hug. May. The baby's coming in May. Is it a boy or a girl? We don't know yet. Can we paint its room purple? We'll see. Ethan watched his wife and daughters, all 3 of them, talk excitedly about the baby and names and whether they'd need a bigger car, and his heart felt so full it might burst. They'd come so far from that parking lot a year ago. From 2 broken people with a complicated past to a family with a future. From separate lives to a shared home. From loss and regret to love and hope. The compass tattoo on his wrist caught the morning light, and Ethan smiled. True north. He'd found it. After years of being lost, after mistakes and miscommunication and missed chances, he'd finally found his way home. And this time, he was never letting go. Outside, autumn leaves drifted down from the maple tree, covering the yard in gold. Inside, the pancakes were burning, the girls were arguing about baby names, Maya was laughing, and everything was exactly as chaotic and imperfect and beautiful as it should be. This was home. This was family. This was the life they'd built from the ruins of what they'd lost, stronger and truer than before. And somewhere in the middle of the noise and the laughter and the burning pancakes, Ethan Carter looked at his wife and daughters and knew with absolute certainty that every wrong turn, every mistake, every painful moment of the past 8 years had been worth it to arrive at this perfect, ordinary, extraordinary morning. The compass had led him here, and here was exactly where he belonged.